All right, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to the SuperScope podcast, your wrap up in this week's biggest gaming stories, leaks, and rumors. We're back for episode 43 on Sunday, August 28th. I am your host, Retro Game Dude, and of course, joining me as always, my co host, Daisuke Aurora of Phoenix Aurora Gaming. Feel free to join us in the discussion live on Twitch or in Discord, or if you're watching this on YouTube, tap and like that subscribe button because that will help us out tremendously. And if you want to listen to us on the audio versions, you can find us on Stitcher, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, and Amazon, if Amazon is a thing. Thanks, guy. How the hell are you doing this week?
Good.
I see you've seen
Doing
the background
fantastic.
already.
I I just love the tacked on great community, by the way.
Yeah.
I see that all the time because people will they'll go into like a dungeon and they'll just be a piece of shit to someone, and
Mhm.
then people will be like, "Yeah, we're reporting you for being a piece of shit," and they'll be like, "Great community, by the way," and it's like,
My
okay,
brother in Christ,
like
you're being a piece of shit.
yeah,
Like,
you are the yeah. Oh, great community. And it's like I got banned from the community, great community, and you're like, what'd you get banned for? And they were like, oh, death threats, and you're like, okay, I don't know what you want me to tell you.
right? Don't know what
Oh,
to
never
tell you,
told.
man. All right,
I am so sure. Oh boy.
we had a pop and Jackbox stream last night. That is for damn sure.
Yeah.
Had a very good time with some slight douchebaggery, but it was mitigated as fast as possible. I don't think anyone even
Yeah.
noticed, and that's what we want here. Um,
No, literally, yeah, I caught it, but I wasn't sure that I heard what I thought I heard. And then Lovey also said like pardon, and I was like, okay, that's what I thought I heard.
yep.
And then no one else said anything. They both muted again, and I was like, okay, they came in together. You know what I noticed about these types of people? They come in pairs. They're
Hmm.
too afraid to do it alone. They have to come with like one other person
Right.
whenever they do it. Because they always join in groups of two, and then they do it together, and then yeah, it never fails.
It's absolute maximum pussy shit. That's what it is.
Right.
So anyway, we had a great
But
stream.
yeah.
Great stream otherwise. This week, however, I won't be doing a Tuesday or Wednesday stream. I am starting a new schedule at work, and I'd like to take a week to at least acclimate that. So Tuesday and Wednesday streams not happening, but we of course will be back next Saturday for Jackbox. So taking the week off, but in the meantime, feel free to join the Discord. We're always active in the Discord, um, and yeah, happy to have you there. And of course, next Sunday we'll be back with another SuperScope podcast. Um, so I played some stuff this week other than Final Fantasy 14, but obviously we're going to talk about Final Fantasy 14 first because the new patch
Wild.
dropped.
Oh yeah.
How are you liking it so far?
Oh boy. Have you? Well, what's okay. You know what's in the patch content, so it's not really spoilers to talk about it. I guess. I guess
Mhm.
it's spoilers to anyone listening, but I imagine anyone who's played the patch probably got a chance to touch the new content by now. It's been what, 5 days
Mhm.
ish, 6 days? Yeah, resets like the day after tomorrow, whatever. Yeah. I don't think there's any reason to really hold back on this. Um, Scarmillion was awesome. How do you say his name?
Scar-
Golbez says it at one point. It's
you
like,
don't pronounce the G, Scarmeleon.
no, you don't. It's like
Right.
Scarmillion.
Yeah.
He was
But
cool. I liked that I was okay. So I was surprised he was the dungeon boss when I was running in the
mhm.
dark, and he showed up and stabbed the lady in the back and killed her. I was like, oh shit, this is from the trailer. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I was like, then who's our trial, right? And then, you progress the story and you get the Barbaricia fight, and I was like, oh, we're doing two of these right now, and we're doing this immediately. Holy shit. Did you get to fight her yet, by the way?
I I think I'm at that fight, and I haven't
Okay.
gotten to. So I left to go to Razahan to get more gear, and then of course I can't figure out how to get fucked back there. But I think I kind of have an idea.
Okay.
How to
I can help you
get
with that
back to
after
it.
too. We can get
It's
back
not a
in
big
there.
deal.
Who boy, that fight is wild.
Nice. I'm here
I,
for it.
I, you'll have to see it to believe it, but uh, she she she's a two-phase fight like most trials, but the second phase is much longer than the first phase. She
Okay.
doesn't spend too much time in the first phase before she does the big transition thing.
Hmm.
And for the big transition thing, she she thickens her thighs incredibly for the second phase, and I'm not kidding, and you'll see.
Man, yep.
You'll be here for it, I'm sure.
I'm
You'll
sure.
see. Please look forward to it.
Nice. Um,
I was doing it with Dark, and I was like, "Oh my god, what is happening?" And I was like, "Dude, she thick." And then she like got thicker, and I was like, "What is happening right now?" And then the phase shift happened, and I was like, "Oh god, why did I wish for this?
I'm
This is a nightmare."
looking forward to it.
Do the whole second, yeah, you'll see. The second phase is crazy. Barbaria and Scarmy Leon really cool. Golbez, this whole story going on in the 13th is awesome. I
Mhm.
like Zero. She's really cool. I like her character. I'm glad to see we're doing something with this.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
Island Sanctuaries got me logging in at all random times of the day to hit milestone times to make sure that I'm optimized. um,
Min-maxing the animals on your island. Gotta
oh
love
yeah, I hit rank 8, I think. Right?
Nice.
Maybe. I've been doing it as much as I can get away with,
Sure.
and it's awesome. That whole thing's really cool. The new raids are fantastic. The songs for the new raids, Silent Scream and then Scream,
Hmm.
are both really good. And then Ember is really cool too. Ember is cool because it's got a lot of motifs of like base game, so it's cool to hear that like get turned up. Those are fun fights.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's been fantastic.
Well, I'm definitely here for it.
And we only have like half the patch because the Criterion and variant dungeons, the relic weapons, and all that stuff is in the back half of this patch that comes like in like a month or so.
Hmm.
And we're still waiting on Savage, and we haven't tried the Extreme for the trial. Like there's a lot to do still, and there's also crafting stuff to do and gathering stuff to do, and
Right.
oh man,
It's
and
a
quality of
lot.
life changes. Like Glamour Dresser got doubled.
And like I said
The
before, I mean, this
graphics
is
quality of life changed.
almost enough
Yeah.
to say it's like almost another whole other expansion at this point. Maybe not as lengthy of a storyline, but holy shit, content-wise, is nuts. Absolutely nuts.
Definitely more content than a paid season from another game that also put out content on Tuesday.
I'm sure
And it
people are.
works at launch, which is a thing.
Yeah, that's wild. Like, oh, we
I
had to
didn't have to go into Island
deactivate
Sanctuary and have like
trials.
gathering these types of items was disabled. And also sages can't do the raid. And also the raid you can't bring the tome gear from 580 into the raid because it's broken. Like, oh boy.
Right. We had to deactivate axes.
Yeah, we had to deactivate warrior access. Sorry, warriors.
Oh god, dude, so bad.
See you in there. See
So,
you in there.
um,
At least I didn't have to pay $100 for a gun to have that gun deactivated.
oh man, right? So that's a thing.
uh,
Oof. Oh, yeah, that's terrible. So, anyway, I got something special this week. We got the Steam Deck here. Um, that dropped. I think I got that Wednesday,
mhm.
and I got the invite for it like last Thursday, and they didn't mess around getting it here. So, if
Right.
you are still waiting on your invite, or if you have just recently gotten your invite, you have 48 hours to act to order it. And then they get it to you. Probably they get it to you within under a week. I was expecting you to be like, okay, now I can order it, but I'm gonna be waiting till like January, February to get it. Nope, it was here within like under 6 days. So I am definitely happy for
Mhm.
that. So anyone who else is waiting on their Steam Deck, keep an eye on your email, because they are sending out invitations, or at least keep an eye on your Steam account too, because you'll get a notification in there as well. So
Mhm.
yeah, I'm loving it. I started playing Mass Effect on it. The finally I got around to playing the Legendary Trilogy Edition, and I downloaded Final Fantasy X just for the hell of it. And we actually
Yep.
hosted Jackbox off of it last night, and we had a good time doing that. With the exception, it didn't download all the games in the background like I thought it would while I was streaming, so that was a hiccup.
Right.
But we honestly didn't even dig into like the older Jackboxes that were giving me problems anyway. So yeah, it's fine. We had a good time. But yeah, Steam Deck is awesome. I'm gonna be playing around with it. I'll probably try to install Windows on it tomorrow, and then we'll see, if I can get Final Fantasy 14 running on it, and then all the other stuff too. So yeah, I'm excited for it, and definitely love it. I mean, the feel of it is really nice. It's definitely a battery hog. Like, whoo boy. Keep if you have a charger, it comes with a charger. It comes with like a carrying case and all that stuff. Keep that charger with you because you will absolutely need it.
Right.
But yeah, it's really great. Like the two touch pads, I didn't realize the two touch pads act as D pads too. So that has like haptic. You press off the top, and that acts as up and down, left and right. Um, it kind of has like a strange touch sensation to it. Like certain games, it feels like it's a scroll wheel. Other games, it feels like it's like a rollerball kind of thing. So they did some really interesting stuff with the haptic feedback on those touch pads. So it's more than just like a simple touchpad and press button. It does a whole lot. So there's a lot of interface on these devices. The screen's touchscreen, has programmable buttons in the back, all kinds of stuff.
Hmm.
I can't speak enough to it. So definitely, if you have a chance to get it, order it. I love it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems cool. Seems like I can't say Switch on steroids because obviously they're kind of doing different things, but
Sure,
definitely.
it's definitely two different target audiences. Obviously, I mean, they're both playing video games, but at the end of the day, it's definitely two different
Right.
audiences.
I just know like I can't. There's not most things that I want to play on Switch or would play on my Switch don't really go to anything else.
Sure,
So it's like they both fill like a decent need in that regard.
sure, definitely. I have seen people emulate the Switch on it seamlessly. Not something I'm
Hmm.
going to go out and do myself because I already have my Switch collection. There's no need to do that on my end, but I mean, it's all their own. But yeah, having a really
I
good
do
time
like.
with. Go ahead.
Well, I do like. I saw that people were using it for like the Wii U and for the 3DS as like a second screen option, and that's cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, I kind of I just like the idea of it sort of like I don't know. I kind of in some capacity like the idea of a Steam Deck becoming a system for preservation in terms of like having all
Oh,
that functionality built into it
absolutely.
and everything. Um,
And Steam has its own version of RetroArch, so
yeah,
right off the
I
rip,
saw
you
that the
can
other day.
run the Game Boy Advance games on it. All the classic titles: NES, Super Nintendo, PC Engine, TurboGrafx 16. It's all there. You just download the cores and you ready to rock. Has an SD
Yeah,
card
it
slot
just
right in it. Slap it in, you're good to go.
right. It just gives me like it gives me like Seed Vault vibes, right? Because like when you have like the Seed Vault where it's like the
Yeah,
one stop thing that has all of that stuff. Well, because we talk about preservation of games and stuff, and most people when they preserve games, it's like they get all the old hardware and they keep it
yes,
all,
that's
and they
yeah,
either
that's
maintain it or they repair it if they have to repair it because some things have to be repaired and replaced.
hmm
Game cartridges, batteries, and old things like Game Boy games, like this and that,
hmm
discs and all this, and I like the idea of like maybe 5, 10 years down the road, a person being able to take their Switch and be like, this is an actual 100% like game thing that does everything. It doesn't just. It's not like it's a PC and you can hook this up and you hook that up and do this.
right.
It's like no, it does everything natively. It does the 3DS stuff when you attach it to a screen. It does the Wii U stuff when you attach it to a screen or a second screen, even your phone most likely, because I'm
hmm
sure there's some combination of like phone screen plus Steam Deck that would work together. I know I
Oh,
can
sure.
link my phone to my computer and stuff like that. So I'm sure or I can link a tablet to my computer too. I'm sure that you could get Steam Deck integration for that.
hmm
I like the idea of it being a one-stop shop where it's like, I'm a game preservationist and I use all my tools to do that, and the tool is like a Steam Deck, and it just has everything, and you
Right.
can show anyone anything. You can be like, yeah, you want like an authentic experience of playing any game, pretty much ever. It's all on the Steam Deck in some capacity,
Sure.
more or less. Um, I would, and I kind of would like to see companies like the actual publishers like Nintendo and all them like move in that direction. But I mean that's a given. Like I'd like to see Nintendo release a lot of their catalog onto like either Steam or even on their own, like on the Switch or something. I don't like necessarily the like subscription model, but I get
Sure.
it. But I would like it to be something that feels a little more permanent because the whole point of preservation is the ability to be like, we'll have this safeguarded.
Right.
And if it's like the Wii U shop or the E shop or the 3DS shop, that doesn't work because those things do eventually go down. And sometimes like you can't re-download your purchases or things go missing or yada yada, things get corrupted, who knows, whatever, whatever. Yeah, but that's a whole thing. I mean,
hmm
game preservation is a big discussion with a lot going on in it.
Sure. And I mean, I
But I
get it.
like what
That's
the
in the
Steam Deck brings to it.
yeah, I get it. It's in the company's interests, to make money. Um,
Sure.
but obviously, too, I mean, it feels bad when you're like paying a subscription model for 20, 30-year-old games, and 20 years from now or 10 years from now, when the Switch store closes or the eShop closes, um,
Right.
you have nothing to show for it.
Well,
That's
that's
a
that's
huge
how
bummer.
it felt with that's how it felt with the 3DS because with the 3DS we had the Ambassador program, and there was all kinds of NES and SNES games on there, and Game Boy Advance games, and it felt like that was going to be like that device. Like you were going to have a 3DS for like the rest of your life, and it was going to be like a
Right.
bunch of, and maybe not like it wouldn't be going forward. You know, of course, one day it wouldn't be supported,
Sure.
but the idea felt like you were eventually going to be able to like
Just do a
load
little
up a
bit of
3DS with a
everything
really
on there.
powerful memory card
Mhm.
or something, and have it just have everything.
Mhm.
And all the NES and older catalog was all going to get brought over for a price. And yeah, it wouldn't be the cheapest thing in the world. It'd probably be a few dollars a game, but at the very least, it felt like one day you'd have a person be able to sit down with like the golden 3DS that has everything from the 3DS and everything prior on it in some capacity.
Right. And that was the big
And that
shame of
didn't happen in the slightest.
no, and that
At
was
the
the
end
big
of
thing
it.
of the big letdown of the Ambassador program was they loaded you up with all of those Game Boy Advance games, and like, oh, this is like the next progression, the obvious progression of
Yep.
the 3DS is, okay, they're bringing 3DS or they're bringing Game Boy Advance games over,
Oh
and that
yeah.
just it never happened after that program, and I think that spoiled a lot of things for people. And it was like it was only for
Yeah.
early adopters of the 3DS. That you could take advantage of having like Game Boy Advance games on it, and then later they're like,
Right.
oh, you need the Game Boy Advance, the new
The new
3DS
one.
Plus to emulate 3D Nintendo Super Nintendo games on it. It's like the 3DS can natively run Game Boy Advance games. Dude. I don't need
Hmm.
I don't need the new 3DS for that. Like the fact of the matter, like the thing was already hacked and like emulating the stuff. It's like don't sell me a fucking load of goods like that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it was just like I don't know. I every time because the 3DS felt like a good spot for that, and then it never happened. And then the Wii U seemed like a cool solution for that problem again, where like you could put 3DS games on the Wii U and have it do the two screens thing, and it would have been cool. But then they just never did that.
Hmm.
And so now seeing the Steam Deck doing what the Steam Deck is doing, it's like a mixed bag for me because I don't want people to just slap like Windows in it and then slap a bunch of emulators in it and be like it has everything. But I
Right.
know people are gonna do that. You know what I
Sure.
mean? But at the same time, I always make the argument where like I don't think people should be emulating stuff that's for sale necessarily.
Hmm.
And the subscription stuff with Nintendo, I think, is like it's wishy washy. But personally, I wouldn't do it because of that. But if it's stuff that's just not available, then I get the argument at least when people were like, "How else am I going to play this game? Like, no one can see this money from it." It's not like if you go out today and you download, Elden Ring off of some website or something,
Hmm.
um, you're actually taking money out of the pockets of those people who
Yeah,
made
it's
that game or who published that game or whatever.
actively
But
sold
like,
game. Like that's
yeah, it's a for sale product that you're just taking, right? It's like, but then it's like, but when it's like we're talking about like versions of like Mother that never made it to America and don't have a release anywhere, or like even stuff that didn't make it to the Nintendo eShop or anything like that. Or I mean,
right.
right now, like the original Grand Theft Auto One, is that available somewhere? If it is, then
Hmm.
shoot me because I don't know. But if it's
Right.
not available anywhere, like I don't really see that much of a harm anymore in like downloading that game and being like, I'm gonna play it on my computer because who are you gonna give that money to?
Sure.
If Rockstar still has it somewhere for $6 or something, then fine. I'll be like, yeah, as long as it's up there for $6, you should buy it. But
And think about how
a
many
lot of
Nintendo
games are
games
not like
aren't
that.
available on Nintendo Switch
Well,
Online.
yeah, and
Like,
Nintendo's the worst defender on that because like it feels like PlayStation likes to take a lot of their old catalog and just dump it on the PS3, PS4, whatever networks for like a few bucks.
mhm.
And Nintendo definitely doesn't do that for some
Yeah,
reason. They do it with some stuff, but they definitely pick and choose what gets there.
sure. And you think about all the third-party games that just like that aren't available because those companies are either just holdings companies now, or they don't exist, or
Hmm.
they've been absorbed into some other company, like Hudson Soft
Yeah,
or Sun. We just see the
that
resurgence
stuff
of
gets messy, right?
Sunsoft last week. It's like how many of their old games do they actually have rights to? I don't even know because I don't know if they're just a holdings company or not. Um,
Yeah, well, dude, that's like you want to talk about like the logistics of like who owned Tetris back in the day. Like,
oh, that
holy
was
shit!
a whole mess.
Like, I read a book that had a whole chapter on Tetris, and they were
Yeah.
just like, here's how this went, and it was like a rabbit hole of like people claiming the game, people making the game and handing it off to other people. Like governments got involved.
Hmm.
Like, oh, it was insane. So I get that. I mean, we saw what happened with the Sonic remake, right? Sonic 3's got its thing, and it's like it's great, except for like two or three stages where the music is just
Absolutely
tech demo
ass.
music or something,
Like
and it's like,
T. Lopez
and
is there.
it's an obscure deal where the music was made by a guy who's now dead, but his
right.
family owns the rights, and they don't want it. Like, yeah,
It's theoretically Michael Jackson. We don't know, but we know, but they won't say it. And it's like
yeah, right,
it's
exactly. Like,
yeah. And That's why it's very important to
Obviously, he kept the
preserve this.
rights, and it went to his family or his estate, and they
Sure.
don't want to use it or something. So there's no other reason why they wouldn't have the rights to the game, because who else would have it at that point?
Right.
Like, the publisher would have it, the developer would have it, it'd be somewhere in-house.
Correct.
Yeah,
You would need someone who's pretty big that knows how to or can afford to negotiate to keep the rights for those songs. That's
exactly. That wouldn't
like
be, yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, that's the whole thing, is like, it's, I would like to see, now that the Steam Deck is out and available and exists in the wild the way that it does, I'd like to see it become a force for good in terms of game preservation.
definitely
And I'd like to see it done ethically. And I know that that's a rough road to walk for people because everybody's got different ideas about what is good and bad in that
sure.
situation. But at the very least, I'd like to see maybe down the road when the current generation's gone and it's like PS5, Xbox X, whatever Switch is next. I swear to God, if it's the Switch U or something, or the Switch Up or something,
I
if they
hopefully
didn't learn
they take their marketing very seriously with the sequel to this platform. Very
the
seriously.
the Switcher, and you're like, no, don't.
No.
But I
Switch
would like to see a
Switch
Steam
2.
Deck become a device that allows for that kind of thing, where like a person who buys a Steam Deck, like at least has access to a whole bunch of gaming, because it would be really cool for like to sit down with my son, or even like for me and my son to sit down with his kid one day, and be able to pull out a device like the Steam Deck and be like, these are the different generations of gaming. This is what we went through over the years.
Oh,
Check this out.
absolutely.
Check this out. Like that's, and you can't. I mean, yeah, you have like, I could show people YouTube videos, but there's a world of difference between showing my son, you know, a playthrough of N64 games versus like making him sit down and be like, here, I'm not telling you how to play. I'm gonna give you what they gave us. You figure it out. Like,
You think Fallout 4 was bad? Play Fallout 1.
oh my
Oh
God, yeah,
man.
that's a world of difference.
Yeah, it's that's rough.
Oh, okay. I would like to apologize because I'm pretty sure we derailed like the opening of our show. I don't think we got anywhere yet.
I'm alright with
I was like, you were like,
that.
I got a Steam Deck, and I was like, there's conversation to be had here.
We can have it. That's what this
But
podcast is for.
yeah, that was the fastest I think we've ever derailed. That was funny.
Yeah, it's true. All
What
right.
else? You said you did some Final Fantasy, you did some
Mm-hmm.
Mass Effect on there.
Mass Effect
How's
looks
it handle? Does it seem like it runs everything
incredible on it.
okay?
It looks, yeah, it's there's no throttling whatsoever on it. I don't know what the max screen rate is. It might be 120, but
Mm-hmm.
let me see if I can unlock it quick and take a look. But you could cap the frame rates too if you want.
Oh, there you go.
But yeah, it's nice because like all the settings are like pretty upfront and adjustable right off the rip. So yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
dope. I think I was running at 60 frames per second with Mass Effect. It looked phenomenal. I haven't gotten a chance to really see the remaster up close, so that was nice to see that too. And I got a
Right.
dock for it so that I can obviously do stuff like rip it to the stream, but so that's nice. Gives it access to like having like USB drives on it and stuff for like upgrading, obviously installing Windows and stuff like that. So
And
yeah,
what's the control situation for that guy? Those are attached permanently, right? Not like switch
these are
Joy-Cons?
attached, but the feel of
Mm-hmm.
these are like I've never felt it's like such like a natural
Like way
grip.
better.
Um, and that's why that was kind of like my shortcoming with the Switch because I have gigantic fucking hands, and like I had to get third-party Joy Cons that have like a more
Mm-hmm.
substantial grip to them, because I just
Yeah.
can't play on those little Joy Cons. So yeah,
Yeah, I have the Power A. It's not quite
Mhm,
super crazy, but it's much better than the Joy-Cons for like size
sure.
and grip and everything.
But yeah, analog triggers, fully articulated thumbsticks, so they're just like a full size, not like the little dinky ones on the Switch.
Oh, that's cool.
Not that that's bad, but it's more my preference. But like I said, you got like the haptic buttons here, like the touchpad interface buttons here that are really impressive. Like they turn into D-pads if you want them to. They react to your touch differently depending on the game.
Mm-hmm.
All that it's so phenomenally built. Like this, you can tell they really took their time with this.
Right. And this has comparative. What's the comparativity to a Switch in terms of like? So it's got a handheld mode. Does it have a dock style mode?
It does, and
Like
it auto
HDMI out
detects.
or something?
Yeah, so
Monitors, TVs.
the only interface it has, you have like a headphone jack, you have a micro SD card slot, and then you have USB-C. And then when you drop it into the onto the dock, let's see if I can demonstrate here. So you just drop it onto the dock like this, and then that just plugs in over the top, of which I like. I really like too that all of the plug-in stuff is on the top, so that you're not putting plugs in the bottom of it, like if you're playing it in bed or something like that, or like the Switch will,
Right.
all that has cords that come on the bottom. So I really love that. Even for me, the
That's
Joy-Cons
cool.
aren't comfortable. I use the Pro Controller in competitive games. Like it's Mario Kart. I do the same thing. So if I'm playing in like TV mode, I'll do the exact same thing. So nice thing is too, you can dock this Bluetooth controller support. If bring your favorite controller along. I think they just dropped the PS5 controller support a couple weeks ago. We mentioned it on the podcast here.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask about. I was going to say you have the option to like, does it have a kickstand built in or a native kickstand, or is it
It
just
doesn't have a
something?
native kickstand, which is kind of like I guess the only downfall for it. But
Right,
um,
which is, I mean,
it's so
trivial at best.
weighty.
Like,
I wouldn't want to be the person in charge of designing that in the first place.
no,
So
absolutely.
the dock does great because it gives you the expandability. It doesn't,
Hmm.
and it gives you that ability to either dock it or just play it on like a little stand. So
Yeah, I feel like even still, like if you really wanted, I almost guarantee that somewhere already there's a third party like stand that's like sturdy
hmm oh,
that
mine's
for that
mine's
kind of thing.
mine's third party. I didn't. It's not a Steam. The Steam docks you can't get right now. They're like out of stock.
Oh,
Um,
okay, okay.
but I'm in luck because I can just 3D print a stand if I want to. So
Yeah, you could.
I've already found like a bunch. And a couple of them are nice because like they'll integrate with like specific brands of docks or expansion dongles and stuff, like the anchor extend
Right,
like
right.
7-in-1. So it's a little dock. You just feed your anchor in there, and boom, it's ready to rock. So it's
That's cool.
nice. Yeah,
That sounds like a win.
yeah. I can't. I have really no complaints about it. So yep, highly recommend it.
There you go.
What else do we have here? Social media accounts. You can find me on Twitter at Game Dude Retro or Twitch and of course TikTok at Retro Game Dude. I haven't put much content up on TikTok lately. I don't have any plans to at this point, but eventually, sometime in the future, I'll like to put more content up. I really want to do stuff with the 3D printer on TikTok. So if you want to check out that stuff, kind of stuff, make sure you go follow it. That's it. So let's talk about our sponsor real quick. Handheldlegend.com. Head on over there if you're into, and I just saw we got some new Game Boy Advance screens and driver boards, so I might take a look into that because I still have 6 Game Boy Advances sitting here that I need to put new screens in. So yeah, if you're into upgrading your old consoles or just want to kind of like do some hobby stuff, or even just buy display stands or new shells for like your Game Boy Color, any portable handheld you can think of, it's all there at handheldlegend.com. You can use Retro Game Dude, code Retro Game Dude at checkout, or just go to handheldlegend.com/Retro Game Dude and save $10 off your first order. All right, let's move on. Quick headlines. So we've got for the last couple of years we've had some trouble getting GPUs. Are you there?
Hmm.
Okay, there you are. You froze up
Yeah,
a little
sorry.
bit. That's okay.
I
Uh,
opened the show notes and it opened it over. It made it go over my camera.
Fantastic. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, Nvidia and AMD are having a little bit of a problem moving units now. So it looks like they
Mm.
are going to be slashing prices on them again. They are cutting production because they can't move them fast enough. Obviously, with Ethereum kind of coming out of getting away from GPU mining, we are seeing a huge decrease in demand, obviously, for lack of better terms. They said that they're cutting back production so that the companies can kind of sell through their stock. And they are getting, I know NVIDIA's positioning to sell or to at least release like the 4000 series video cards soon. So, yeah, we're expected to see the RTX 3000 series get cut back in production. I would expect to see price drops below what is current MSRP. So good for us who've been waiting for one. But I bought one and I got mine at a good price. It was a GeForce RTX. So hopefully, if I don't know if you're in the market for one or not. I know your computer is kind of looking for a couple upgrades
Yeah.
here and there, but
I'm trying to figure out what I want to do about it. Yeah.
so
On a fun aside, I don't know if you'll be able to really catch it on my phone screen popped
uh,
up here, but
sheesh.
Ethereum is cratering right now because of the creator of the DNS for Ethereum is in prison
Yes, let's
and
talk
won't be
about
able to
that.
renew. He won't be able to renew the DNS thing. So in the last 3 days or so, I think it's. Let me see if I
Speaking,
have.
yeah,
Yeah, I
speaking
know
of
it's
Ethereum,
been dipping.
so you told me about this the other day. So the DNS owner of Ethereum is going to jail.
He is in jail. He's serving his first of 5 years for abetting North Korea to evade sanctions.
Oh man. Um,
Yeah, just your standard up and up,
yeah,
good Samaritan
average
dude doing things.
average crypto
But
bro,
like,
decentralized currency kind of
you
situation.
end up in that position in the first. Like, what the? Yeah. So on August 14th, Ethereum was worth just about 2,000 US dollars for one full Ethereum, because you know how these
Hmm.
currencies work. They're coins, gems, whatever. Um,
Yeah.
right now, as of today, Ethereum is just above 1,400, which
Mhm.
that's not probably not how that's supposed to go,
No.
like in general, but especially because back in April, it was upward of 3,600 ish. Yeah, like 3,500 for one Ethereum, and the year to date puts it at as of January 1st, it was 3,700 for one Ethereum, which means that from the year begin till now, 37 down to 1,400. That's more than 50% dip across the entire year. It's a pretty bad hit. Because
Yeah.
there's a lot of people who are nobody knows what's going to happen with Ethereum. It'd be like having PayPal just be like, oh yeah, all your PayPal links are going to die on September 5th or 6th,
Sure.
and if anybody puts up a fake link that links to the same address, like other people could basically take it, like your PayPal link,
Hmm.
and if people tried to pay you at your PayPal link, it would go to whoever took the link now. Like, it's just a hot mess.
Wow.
So and especially because you know as well as I do, a lot of people who get into Ethereum, they're speculative buyers. They don't know a lot about tech. They're just treating it like a stock or like
Correct.
an investment book
Oh, I'm sure
thing.
there's plenty of idiots right now that are like, buy the dip, and it's like,
Yeah,
oh,
that too.
okay.
But the problem is you have a lot of people who don't know, either they don't even know this is coming, or they know it's coming and they don't know what to do about it, or they don't know that like the DNS is going down and could be replaced by fake ones,
Sure.
and they're going to spend the first day of the DNS going down and getting replaced, sending a bunch of their money to people who can't actually receive it,
Yeah.
or trying to get paid for services or things and then not getting that money because their link has been compromised. Like, it's going to be a hot
Oh,
disaster.
I'm sure there's people already
Worry about it.
being pre-scanned because there's other people trying to get out of the market and they're trying to bilk anyone they can,
Yeah,
trying to get them
and
into this.
it has the potential to end up where Axiom Verge ended up, which is that death spiral where the only people that are hanging on to it are the people who are waiting for an opportunity to let go.
Axie Infinity, we should
Like,
say. I just don't want
oh, what did I say? Axiom
Axiom
Verge.
Verge. Yeah.
Axiom Verge also spirals
Axie
down into a death spiral.
Axiom Verge is a fantastic game. Let's separate
Hey,
that
the
from
first
Axiom
one
Verge.
is good. Axiom Verge 1 is great. Axiom Verge 2 did not do it for me. We talked about that. No, Axie Infinity has that problem now where like the only people holding on to Axie Infinity like assets, I guess you'd call it, are people who are just waiting for it to go up high enough for them to sell and not feel so bad about the loss they took.
Yep.
Which means that any sort of recovery is going to immediately be stifled by the people who have been waiting to get out. And when those people get out, there will be a miniature sort of crash again where everybody goes, well, people are getting out, I'm getting out, they're getting
Yeah,
out.
you're gonna see a bunch of pump
And
and dumps. So you're gonna see like tick up,
it's
drop,
never
tick up,
gonna
drop, tick up, drop, and then
it's never gonna have the confidence to build back up again. It
right.
won't. And that's why it is where it is right now. So I think Ethereum's looking at that being a very real possibility where their credibility goes through the shredder because of this. And I think that they might tank and never recover.
Oh, definitely. I'm here for
I don't know where my little violin is, but
it.
I hate speculative stuff. We talked about it before. I think it's a waste. I think
Yeah.
it serves no purpose but to mess with people
Right.
and generate wealth and inequality for people. That's all it does.
Yeah, 100%. So it thrives on the idea that the people in the know are going to profit off of something, sell it off, so that the people who aren't in the know take a loss on it. It's
Right.
a scam. It's the only way this currency can operate.
Right. It's a shame because I get the idea of having digital currency. I mean we're basically there in a
I
lot of
think
ways now. Most people
sure.
don't handle money. We handle
Hmm.
bank accounts and digital pay chips and
And don't get me wrong, I
cards.
think there is some utilitarian stuff to it, but the way that
Sure.
it's currently
Absolutely.
being used,
We're
has
not
not
seeing that
we're
anywhere.
not
No
yeah
one's
has
using it
not
like that.
demonstrated any confidence. And I think of all the ones that takes anything seriously, or anyone that takes it seriously is probably like the Bitcoin stuff. Um,
Right. And
Beyond
even
that,
then,
like
like,
the other stuff is just sketch, because like why do we need so many
yeah.
different currencies in this space? It doesn't make any sense. So
Well,
they've
I just
become
feel bad because it's
stocks.
like it's a thing I like to call the 4chan problem, where like if you have this sort of, people are like, oh yeah, it has to be decentralized, it has to be like the Wild Wild West, no rules, no regulations, people do what they want, free market, yada yada. And every time we put that kind of environment on like a social board or in a company setting or
Hmm.
in an economy, it collapses because you can't have no regulation and no rules because people will find the worst ways to take advantage or the best ways to screw people over, the worst outcomes, and that's what it always turns into. That's why like Chan boards always turn out so shitty. That's
Right.
why, like, all these things end up being cesspools or like laden because you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, even in video games, look at games like Rust, where like it's just like, yeah, you just play the game and everybody can do whatever they want. What does that turn into? Most people usually just screw people over. People are betraying each other, backstabbing each other. You have cliques and guilds and people turning on each other, getting murdered for like all this stuff. And it's like it's the same thing, right? Like the
Right.
game devolves into like, well, it's shit.
Well, I
Like,
mean, in Rust's defense, that is the point of the game. Like, if
oh,
you're
of
there to
course,
take it
I
seriously,
get it.
you're not gonna have a good time. Like that's
Yeah, but that's what I mean. You can't take that seriously, right? And that's the same thing you have to do with these
correct.
like
Right. Right.
NFTs and these sort of crypto things. Is like you have to go in, if you go in at all, knowing that it's not going to go well, like no matter what.
Hmm.
So unless you're willing to be the bad actor yourself, you shouldn't even bother.
Exactly.
But yep. So yeah, AMD, Nvidia, and GPU stuff happening. Um, it's a good time to get into that stuff, absolutely. And I've
Sure.
noticed that um, now that this whole thing is sort of blowing over, I feel like I don't know. I don't know if it's like, so. There's an aside, I guess. Let me contextualize it this way. The Epic and Unreal are doing the Game Jam right now for like a week.
Hmm.
It's called like the Epic Mega Jam, I think it's called. It's a big thing they do. Um, and like there's a lot of prize support for that right now from, I think it's Nvidia, and they threw a bunch of high end cards at them as like, for like the best game, the best graphics game, the best story game, the best this, that, like all their categories they give awards for. I was looking at the awards packages and they're all loaded with like Nvidia products of like graphics cards, this, that, software, the other, like. And I thought it was funny because, like, we've been talking about these things being so hard to get their hands on, and now they're just like, now they simply give it away. Like, it's crazy.
You'd be the king of
But
fools to give these cards away.
they'd be the king of fools. No, I just thought it was funny to see this year's Game Jam prize support was like a ton of that stuff, and I was like, oh man, this stuff was hard to get, and now I feel like I'm not sure if that's really super incentive for a prize. I mean, sure, it's a good prize. Don't get me wrong,
Hmm.
but I think it was like 3080s and stuff, which are great. I just thought it was funny that we've circled back to a point where like these companies can afford to just be like tossing them into like game jam prizes and stuff, which is great. It's good for game designers and the
Sure.
game design community. It was just weird to see it after 2 years of like it being like an impossible thing. Like, so I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we talked about that, didn't we, last week? The inventory problem where like they ramped up production to meet the demand, and then the demand evaporated.
Yeah, and that's kind of where we're sitting at now, where they're basically
Yeah.
trying to clearance down stock. So I would kind of keep an eye on prices, use some price charting and price checking websites to keep an eye on stuff, because I think we're going to see a further dip than what we're seeing at MSRP, because we have the combination, like I said, of the 4000 models coming out for the RTXs, plus we have just an overstock, and companies aren't ordering them right now, so they're cutting back production, waiting for that stock to sell through. And we'll probably see like a minuscule bump in the 3000 series, but because that 4000 series is coming out, either get these RTXs cheap now or wait for the 4000 series to come out.
And you said there's going to be a dip,
Yeah,
and I have to buy the dip, don't I?
you have to buy the dip.
I'm buying the dip. No.
Nice. Oh my god. All right, so let's move on. Had a big stink on Twitter. That is for sure. Earlier this week, towards the beginning, I think Monday or Tuesday, PlayStation announced that they were going to be increasing prices on their PlayStation 5 models. And I'm not going to pretend to know what the conversion rate is here, but you can see the
Right.
prices up there. So for people watching at home, if you are in one of these countries, you can kind of expect to see the prices go up in your country. For both the Ultra HD and the digital edition. So kind of keep an eye on those prices if you can. I don't know if the prices have gone live yet, but snag those systems up while you can. Obviously, they're hard to find, so but that's what we're looking at right here. And then on the PlayStation blog, here's kind of what they Jim Ryan had to say. He's like, the global economic environment is a challenge that many of you around the world are no doubt experiencing. We are seeing a high global inflation rates as well as adverse currency trends impacting consumers and creating pressure on many industries. Based on these challenging economic conditions, Sony Interactive Entertainment has made the difficult decision to increase the recommended retail price of the PlayStation 5 in select markets across Europe, Middle East, Africa, Asia Pacific, Latin America, and as well as Canada. There will be no price changes in the United States. And I think most of that is just due to the fact that we're basically the biggest target audience, or at least the biggest demographic of purchasers. So we're just not impacting those prices.
There's enough quantity of sale,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, there's enough profit ratio there for them for that. So yeah,
Right.
Japan's even going up in price because we've seen over time with like PlayStation and Sony in general kind of pulling their interest and focus away from the Japanese markets and more focusing it towards the United States.
Mhm.
So so that's kind of where we're at with that. So luckily, if you're in the United States, you're not affected by it. Unfortunately, for most other parts of the world, you will be affected by this price increase. Now, we just talked
Sure.
about Nintendo theoretically raising their prices a couple weeks ago. They
Yeah,
doubled
there's
down
rumors.
again, and Xbox as well, both stating that they will not be increasing their console prices at any time in the future. So it looks like somehow magically only Sony is affected by this, which is interesting because we just talked about, and this is why I put this story after this one. We're seeing chip shortages diminish. We're seeing AMD and Nvidia both cutting back on production. So what hardships are they exactly facing here? I don't get
Yeah, I
this.
mean, it could
So
be other parts. I'm not sure. I really couldn't speak to that.
sure.
I'd like to, at the risk of sounding sort of like a fanboy, I'd like to put forward somewhat of a defense of their position at this point. Um, if I'm not mistaken, Xbox pretty much always sells their console at loss.
Mm-hmm.
So making sure they're actually turning profit on their systems never matters. So if inflation does go up and prices do go up in manufacturing, they probably just don't care. Like
Sure.
Microsoft, big Microsoft company just says, whatever, we've been doing this since its inception.
Right.
It's fine.
Their P&L
I
sheets
can see
look a
why
little bit different.
they can sort of afford to just say we're not raising our prices because we're already losing money on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's whatever. And the Switch also, if I was going to come at it from their perspective, that hardware is a lot older and a lot cheaper to make at this point, so they're turning probably good profit on the Switch
Sure.
and can most likely afford to absorb the increased cost. Like
Typically,
hypothetically, assuming there is an actual inflationary cost hitting all three studios,
mm-hmm.
I feel like Microsoft would just be like, we don't care, we're already losing money. Nintendo would be like, we don't care, we make enough money on it. And that
Right.
it puts Sony in the position of like the only one who's spending the margins thin enough that they actually do have to change their price.
Right.
Now, granted, this could just be that they're being greedy assholes. I have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
But I could see a situation where because Nintendo makes so much on their Switches already and Xbox is already at a loss, neither of them cares about the inflationary adjustments.
Sure.
And only Sony would be the one tipping from slight profit to slight loss and therefore wants to make that change. But
And historically too, Nintendo is like the only company in gaming that makes money on their consoles.
yes, they're very good about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're very good about that.
So
That's true.
that's they're I can't think of another company that actually profits on consoles. The way it's designed, you take a loss in the hardware, you make it up in the licensing, especially with third party, and that was the biggest issue with the Wii U because they didn't really have the third party backbone to make that console as successful as it should have been or could have been,
Right.
marketing aside. But
I wonder. It's an aside. I'm not trying to like leave the conversation, but I do wonder. I wonder what the Steam Deck looks like. in that regard
That's a
compared to
great
the
question.
consoles.
We'll have to keep an eye on like an earnings report on that.
Because that's not something we've ever had to happen before. We don't have a baseline for that.
Right.
Microsoft always sells at a loss, and Sony usually sells at a loss only for a year or two, and then switches to making a profit on it.
Mm-hmm.
And Nintendo, pretty much like you said, Nintendo pretty much does make a profit out of the gate because of the way they do their business and everything.
Sure. I mean, I would assume for the price of this thing that it would be profitable. But again, I don't know. Now, Steam's another company that makes money hand over fist because they get 30% of every sale ever made.
They could afford to take a loss on the Switch
right.
hardware.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see what that is. I was thinking the other day. So, like, what does that look like as far as making money, and also what would a sequel of this look like, and what as far as because now they're kind of in like that development loop where they have to increase standards of hardware over time, but also
they're gonna have
make sure that their stuff is supported, but because they've always done a good job of making sure there's a lot of software support and stuff for their games, so
right.
should be interesting.
I do wonder about Steam Deck in that regard because Steam Deck, out of all things, the PC gaming crowd are the first ones to be like, obsolete hardware is a problem.
Yes.
Like console players are used to going 7 years plus without a change in the hardware, or with revisions that aren't actually more powerful.
Right.
And the Steam community, like not that it's a negative thing, but the Steam community is not very about that. They were going to, I assume, want upgraded models in half the time of a console. I would imagine 3 or 4 years would be pushing for them.
Sure. Yeah.
Depending on, I guess depending, but like, yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. It's interesting to think about how they've stepped. I guess it didn't really hit me that they stepped into the console market the way they did until now, and now I'm starting to realize like they have to make these decisions. They have to consider these things. They have to play ball with the big companies now.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
What worries me too is that Steam is another company like Google, where if they have like a hardware project that kind of fails, they scrap it and then they don't talk about it anymore.
They will scrap it.
So they did that with those weird controllers, which I have 2 of because they sold them on Steam for $5 each. So I bought 2 of them.
Yeah, I remember that.
And they've done that with a couple other pieces of hardware. The little streaming box they did.
Yeah,
they scrapped that too. Yep, I have I think 1 or 2 of those too.
Yeah, well, it's like Sony did that with their like PlayStation Vita TV thing they did. They were like, oh, it's the solution to the Vita at home, and it was like, okay, and then they were like, yeah, well, never mind, and it like died immediately.
Right.
Oh man. But yeah, no, I don't want to play defense for Sony because as a big corporation, they are absolutely capable of making shitty decisions.
Absolutely.
I just am curious. Sony's usually pretty good the last few years, maybe almost a decade, at being on top of their PR and on top of their marketing. So it seems weird for them to just walk out here and take this kind of PR hit without some sort of underlying mitigation.
Right.
And I think what I said makes sense because they couldn't just come out and say Microsoft has enough money to not care, Nintendo makes enough profit on their hardware to take part of the hit, because then it just looks like they're like victim blaming those companies for like also having inflation problems, right? They're just like, oh, Microsoft can throw their money around. Like that just sounds like they're bitching at that point, doesn't it?
Right.
So I think they had no choice but to kind of bow down in their head and be like, we're raising prices and we're sorry, and please understand, and yada yada, and that's all they could really say. But like again, I mean, grain of salt. Maybe I'd hope we get more information down the road because I'd like to know what actually is happening. I don't want to just play defense for Sony.
Sure.
I like to think that I stay as impartial as I can. I just can't imagine a world where they just walk out here and make a really bad PR mistake like this for no reason.
Yeah.
And none of the companies tend to do that. Xbox's last one was like the conference where they announced like the share your games blowout from PlayStation, and that was going in blind. So like that was a whole nother thing. It just it's weird. It's a weird thing. Oh.
That's what else we have here. So everyone's favorite company, Denuvo's rearing its ugly head. They announced early this week too that they were going to be implementing their DRM that everyone loves into Switch games, and I guess this caused quite a bit of a stir online. We all know what they are, what they do, and all that stuff. So they're really known for I would say A, shitty business practices, B, bloatware DRM. So I think people got up in arms about it and they, questioned Nintendo on it. And Denuvo kind of came out and said, Nintendo's not involved. This is them approaching third-party software developers for DRM. So I guess they're going to be, looking at like piracy protection online connection. They're saying that game performance isn't going to be impacted, but again, Nintendo takes great strides in making sure that system runs very lightweight. That's why we don't have things like themes, because any little bit of like resource hog they don't want on their system. So this is obviously worrying a lot of people. So we're gonna have we saw, what was it? Bethesda.
It was like Doom.
Yes, Bethesda tried to implement DRM protections for like no reason. And it bogged the software down and ruined the experience. So
for a lot of people, like it wouldn't play or it would crash. Right. It would log really bad.
It would throttle frames and stuff. So
people were playing like the single player campaign,
right,
et cetera, et cetera. It was like, okay.
Mm-hmm. So I have zero faith that Denuvo is going to make anything here that's not going to piss someone off. So
yeah, their names come up a few times that I've seen, and every time it does, it's usually they implemented DRM and it went badly.
Right. Every single time. So
sometimes they reverse it, but like that's not, you don't get like credit for reversing a bad thing like that.
Well, that's the thing too, is like they usually keep it on for like a year, like the DRM on for a year, and then after a year it gets pulled off. So the only people that suffer this are people who legitimately bought the game, because this stuff is reverse engineered in a day. So
right.
It does no one for nothing. It's just like a money making scheme on their end at the end of the day. So look forward to Denuvo DRM, and I'll be interested to see how well this gets yanked out of software down the road for Switch games. I can see why it's easier to do it on a PC, but for something like a Switch, like patching an update for something like this to remove that, I don't see that being smooth.
Dude, like imagine trying to play Smash online with DRM from Denuvo, and it's like Smash already has like its not great netcode and everything, like, but then you put that on top of it, and it's like, this would be great.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if like it just like implements something that constantly runs in the background, regardless of what you're playing now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's no good there. No
Steam Deck's looking pretty nice now. Yeah. Oh, we'll see.
Yeah. All right. So.
Oh my God! Watch it be for Pokemon Unite or something. Like of all places to put it, like. Oh no.
Oh, that would be just terrific. What else we have here? So Nintendo already banning Splatoon 3 cheaters. We had a demo go up this weekend. I think it's a timed demo. I'll have to see if I have some time that I can even play it after this stream. I don't know if you can get me some dates on that. That'd be great. But
I'll take a look. I didn't know that was. I was like, is that out yet? But yeah, that would make sense.
Demo's up, and they are banning players completely off of Nintendo Switch Online. Not just the game. They are getting banned completely off of Nintendo Switch Online. Love to see it. I am here for that. I fucking hate cheaters that ruin the experience for other people. So yeah, I'm excited for that. So yeah, if you plan on cheating on Splatoon 3 this weekend, kiss your fucking account goodbye.
Yeah, that's insane. I mean, like that. What I mean by that's insane is people bothering to like cheat Splatoon 3 during a demo window. Like, what are you doing? Like, for what?
Exactly, for what? It's like, what stats are you here to brag about? Like, all the stuff gets wiped as soon as the game releases or after the demo time bombs.
Absolutely insane. Like, oh man, people putting a lot of worth in some really weird positions.
Yep.
It looks like Saturday. Okay, so it was Saturday. It might already be over.
It might.
It was an event on Saturday that was from 9 to 9 California time, so like midnight, like noon to midnight on Saturday.
I think that's what they did with their first Splatoon 2 demo on the Switch.
Yeah, it looks like it's already over.
So they might do a second one between now and launch.
Yeah, most likely.
Yeah, it goes quick. So yeah, it looks like they do. Like, I saw a little bit of coverage of like the three teams. It's like one versus team. Well, 3 teams on a match instead of just 1 versus 1. It's 1 versus 1 versus 1. If I can, Jesus. So
yeah,
it looks good. Yeah, I'm reading here. Oatmeal Dome posted. Oatmeal 3 has anti-cheat in place. Nintendo is beginning to issue console bans, total permanent bans from Nintendo Switch Online. So the console itself gets bricked off the internet if you decide to cheat, which I'm here for it.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yep.
Like for them, I mean, if you're gonna do that,
Yeah.
sucks.
Now
But
I hope that the algorithm or whatever their detection software is good enough that they're not banning legit players, because that sucks.
sure.
We did see that with Splatoon 2.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so there was some kickback with that, like legitimate players getting banned too. So it wasn't a lot, but it was like one of those things where it's like you had to wait a week and like for Nintendo to get a reaction. It's like it's great if you're like a big enough name or the story gains enough traction, and then Nintendo will address it. And it's kind of shitty that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so a couple other Sony stories this week. Almost last year at this time, we saw that Sony announced that they were going to integrate Discord voice chat into the PlayStation, and then we didn't hear about anything for a while. And then a couple of months ago, they're like, "Okay, here's your Discord integration, and you can sign into your PlayStation account from Discord, and it would just basically broadcast and tell you what game you're playing." And I was kind of like, "Is this it?" Uh, so
Right.
everyone was expecting it to be voice chat integration, and now it's coming. So they will be integrating it. I guess there is rumors that it could come as early as middle of September. I guess the people that broke the story about the PlayStation Pro controller several months ago are also breaking this story. So we're expecting it to see in Discord version 7.0. So hopefully we'll see that implementation very soon, and that'll be great for a lot of cross-platform games that are on consoles. You smile because you know I'm going to talk about Destiny.
No, I'm smiling because while you were talking about this, in my head I was like, how do I make this a joke about the 21st of September?
I
And
don't
I was like,
know.
Discord in September is the chorus. And I was like, how do I ask Retro if he remembers the 21st night of September when they added Discord?
Oh my god, dude. So
So it's
anyway,
disarmed. The threat's gone.
there we go. All right, fair enough. So yeah, so it's nice to see that because there was a lot of talks about Discord being bought out or public, going public and stuff, and it's nice. It looks like the console companies are kind of coming to like some fair ground here or common ground here. What are you doing? You're typing something. So, but it's nice to see that they're coming, I guess, to at least some common ground where this isn't going to be bought up by one company and then absorbed and then stolen from the other thing. So, um,
Right.
oh my god! All right,
I
so
had to put it somewhere. It must live on.
fair enough. So, yeah, I'd like to see how this gets implemented. I'm really excited for this because obviously we do play with some people on Destiny when we're
Dude, yeah,
playing it.
our whole Destiny clan is on PlayStation, so it's
Right,
like,
right, with the exception of like
but
three
we're
or
always
four
on
of us.
computers. Like me and you and like a couple people are always only on PC, really.
Right.
So it's like, I hate having to like, I'll play Destiny once in a while, and I have to like open my phone, open the app, get like a Bluetooth headphone or some kind of headphone in or something, connect to the party on my phone, make sure that's doing
Right.
the thing, like listen with one ear to my game sound because my chat's here. Like, yeah, it'll be nice to be just a thing
Yeah.
that works.
Well, I bought Witch Queen on the PC, expecting that integration to be ready
Like there, yeah,
already, and I was
absolutely.
like, okay, 6, 7 months, 8 months later now, it's finally coming out. Um,
Dude, remember like that one wild week where like Xbox announced they were getting it
yes,
and like Sony didn't say anything and we were like, what happened? What is happening
and
right
that's
now?
what I was like, all right, I lost all hope. But no, it's good to
Yeah,
see that this is actually coming, because I thought like their integration was just what
that
we
like
saw a couple months
like
ago.
status message, yeah.
Right? Like no one gives a shit about that, like at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Discord, famous app everyone uses for notification status, like AIM.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man. Okay. What else do we have up here? Oh, get out of the way, mouse. Yeah. So there was a story that dropped. I think it was USA Today. Um, dropped a story that the Amazon was going to announce acquisition of EA, Electronic
Mm.
Arts. And then shortly thereafter, they retracted that statement after CNBC just basically said, yeah, there's really no plans of that announcement. And I guess
Yeah.
USA Today made it like a state had to come out with a statement like, oh yeah, this didn't pass our editorial standards. This shouldn't have been published, and blah 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 blah.
Right.
So,
Yeah. I wonder if that's like a side effect of there being so many high profile game studio and developer and publisher purchases that
mm,
news companies catch the rumors of it and they like kind of chomp the bit to like we
be
if
the
we get out
first,
ahead of this we get that,
right?
you know what I mean? And it maybe
That's
like it's better from their perspective to like be the dudes running that show and running that line first.
mhm.
And then if it comes out to not happen, being like, oh yeah, it didn't actually happen. It doesn't unget your clicks and it doesn't unget your views and everything, right?
Of
Like
course.
you still got all that generated content
Oh,
and
100%. All the ad revenue,
everything
all the
attention.
clicks, all
Right,
the
right, right. All
algorithm
that happens
boosts.
up front, and then
Right.
you just have to be like, sorry, it didn't happen. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
And that's the biggest problem I have with the modern news media and journalism in general is that they will run a
Sure.
story and then you don't hear about the retraction. So,
Yeah, exactly. Because they don't. It's like I feel like this happens every podcast, but you can't untether it from like the capitalist structure of like financial incentive, right?
exactly.
Like all these news medias run on the back of this money, like, and it's a
Mm.
lot of money and it's big numbers. So
Yeah,
like,
they're more incentivized to break the story without any factual backup
right,
rather
exactly.
than
I mean, I'm sure there's weight to it. Like, I'm sure
Mhm.
they do have, like they said, we have editorial standards and everything, but that only runs so far when you're looking at being the front runner in what would be a huge story like
Sure.
that. So I think any news media company would make that decision because of the pressure of the amount of money that can be made
Oh, of
and
course.
generated
I
from
can
being
guarantee
first
you,
over the line for
even a
that.
wrong story like this walked away with a bag, dude. Like,
Oh yeah, yeah. That's what I'm saying. They literally get to walk away with a bag. And it's not like they did anything malicious. They heard a thing, they reported on it, it didn't
mhm.
happen, whatever. But I think they were any company who hears about these kinds of rumors is incentivized to be like, do we just throw it out there and then retract if it's wrong, or do we wait and see what happens? Because a lot of you would think you would wait and see what happens if someone gets solid evidence, if an interview happens, but that doesn't pay the bills, doesn't keep the lights on, and doesn't make the bag.
Right.
So you know, and it's interesting. I don't know. It's one of those I think we do this every podcast, and I hate to be that guy that we do that every time, but uh, financial incentives for things like that sucks because it impurifies the process.
Mhm.
You know.
Yeah, and even this is my favorite part here. Like CNBC Now posted this article or made a tweet. Amazon is not going to make a bid for Electronic Arts. Sources tell CNBC's David Faber. Shares of EA surged earlier on a report citing a rumor. So I mean, the
Oh,
financial
that
implication
too.
that like the holy shit.
Well, because now you have to worry about like, did a middle manager, higher up manager at EA like leak this, and
Sure,
then like, hey, we're gonna get bought by what was it, the Embracer Group or something? Again,
sure. You puff your stock
was
price
like
to
the
make
person.
make it
Yeah,
your
you like
valuation
this
goes
dude
up.
plans to sell his stuff today and leave, and he's like, "What do I do on my way out the door to make this better?" Or like, "What do I do if I want to unload some stuff today to make a little more
Hmm.
money for myself?" And it's like, yeah, you bring up a dude at NBC, and you're like, "Hey, we might get bought by anonymously. I'm telling you anonymously from a good source. Embracer's going to buy EA. That's why they've been on, and they're in the news already for buying a bunch of shit. So it's not like a wild theory. It's a thing that's been happening. Um, and now that guy goes and he's like, hey, he tells the boss. The boss is like, just run the story. We'll deal with like if we have to pull it later, we can pull it later. The story gets run. 15% increase in EA stocks. This dude's already got 6 figures worth of stock. That 6 figures is, you know,
Poof.
10%
Sure.
is 10, 20, 30 grand, whatever at least. And then he gets to just walk out. He was already going to do that anyway, so he's just making money over money at that point.
Yep. It's kind
And
of like
then like nobody really gets hurt, right? Like the story goes away,
sure.
whatever.
It's kind of like the opposite of the opposite theory that we saw with Microsoft and Activision, where Microsoft, it seemingly climbed a moral high ground to drive
Right, to
Activision
drive
stock
them
down.
down.
Uh,
Right. They were like, man, they were like, yeah, they got up there and they were like, what do you guys think about this whole ABK thing? And they were like, man, it's really shitty of them to be like this. And then their price tanked and they were like, and they just reached down and like picked them up.
right.
They're
I
small enough now that we can just pick them up.
Yeah, and I still think it's a sound theory, but I still have a sneaking suspicion. Um, deals were already inked prior to
Oh yeah,
Microsoft
no, I
coming to
agree.
that.
I
So,
agree.
because
But that's
these
the
kind of
thing.
deals take months, months.
Oh, absolutely. But I wouldn't be surprised if part of it was an actual PR campaign
Oh,
to do that.
fuck yeah, dude. Oh yeah. Um, yeah. So I think EA will probably. I mean, they have. There's been a lot of rumors of them positioning to be sold. I guess there's kind of it looks like there might be some bidding between Apple, even a couple other companies. So I think I would say by the next year we should probably hear some news on EA being bought by someone. That's kind of where we're at with
Wasn't
that.
who was it that was going to throw in the gaming? Wasn't someone? Wasn't there a weird name throwing money in gaming all of a sudden, or they were going to, or positioning to?
Mm,
Oh man, I feel like we mentioned it briefly maybe a couple weeks ago. It was like someone like Apple or something. Some company that doesn't really do gaming suddenly was just like talking about throwing a bunch of money at a big studio or big studios.
I
I
it
have to
was
remember it.
like Saudi Arabia. I know that they threw like a bunch of money at
It was something weird that
couple
like
game
no one ever
companies.
talked about being involved with it, and they were
Yeah,
like, "Yeah, they're gonna actually just buy their way into the gaming industry or something." And it was like, "Oh, okay."
right.
But I don't remember who it was now
Yeah, I can't think of it.
because it wasn't the Embracer thing. It was something else that was like that, but it was a
Hmm.
group I'd like never heard of or something, or wasn't like gaming related, and they were just like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna dip too." Oh man, I'll have to see if I can do some digging and figure out what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, go for it. I'm not. I can't think of anything specific, but yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. All right, and at least for now, this is our last bit of Sony news. They announced this week that they are going to be doing their own Pro controller, similar to I guess the Xbox Pro controller. It's called the DualSense Edge, a wireless controller. This looks like it's pretty nice because it's modular. The thumbsticks are removable and replaceable, so people who have been complaining about stick drift and stuff, now these parts are modular for this, at least the Elite controller. It looks pretty nice. It's ultra customizable. They say you can. It looks like you can change the tension on the triggers in the back. You can do. You can save controller profiles. It has a bunch of like programmable back buttons and stuff. Um,
That's cool.
yeah, there's some like looks like there's some buttons in front of the thumbsticks. But yeah, it looks like it's a pretty premium experience. So I don't know. Maybe check that out. Um, but I just like the idea of the replaceable stick modules, especially because of the stick drift. You might be able to, I don't know, buy different modules that maybe one's a D-pad, maybe have like more tense thumbsticks for like certain games. If it's more comfortable to play. So yeah, there's a lot of options there. It looks sleek. I like it, but that's why I have like a PS5 controller even for my PC because it's stupidly comfortable controller. But yeah, I'm
Right.
definitely looking forward to seeing what this does. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. That's for sure. Anything to add there?
No, I'm glad to see that because it feels like that's one thing I do always like about Xbox is that
Mhm.
they get those like Elite controllers and those things are usually pretty. They're heavy, but
Yeah,
outside of being a little heavy, they're like pretty primo controllers. I remember when
yeah.
they first Elite One and Elite Two came through GameStop, we were able to like crack it open and look at it, and
Okay.
it was a monster.
Hmm.
But I don't know. I have my DualShock 5, and I can't imagine really wanting to make changes to it.
Yeah, that's kind of like the biggest draw to it. I think is the ability to change like the thumbstick modules to it. Um, I'm looking at mine now. It's like it just feels great already. It doesn't look like they're changing the form factor of it too much. It just it has like the programmable back buttons. There's some under the thumbsticks. It'll have some buttons there, and like maybe some like slight cosmetic changes. But otherwise, not a whole lot. But yeah, it looks nice. I'll be interested to see what it feels like. Um, yeah, it looks cool.
I wonder if I can program one of the smart back buttons to be like a snap rescue.
You probably could. That'd be interesting.
Macro snap. Yeah, I can just macro snap rescue and
Hmm.
maybe program it or something. That'd be really funny.
I have
Oh
a
man.
dedicated on controller user interface. So the dedicated FN, which I'm guessing function button, allows you
Oh
to
wow.
easily adjust your setup while staying focused on in-game action. Quickly swap between your preset control profile, adjust the volume, chat balance, access the controller profile. It has changeable stick caps, so it looks like you can, even on the underside, like the underside of the controller buttons, you can swap those out. DualSense wireless controller features. The DualSense Edge wireless controller retains its signature comfort and immersive experience. How immersive is a DualSense controller, and at the end of the day, adaptive triggers, built-in microphone, all the motion controls. So obviously, all the bells and whistles of the original controller are there. Replaceable stick modules. You can make the DualSense. What's up?
It sounds like a good controller,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm missing a feature that I really need.
What's that?
Well, this all sounds cool and all, but have you seen the Polyum 1 controller that has a wallet button to spend money?
I forgot. Why'd you have to remind me of that?
Damn it, PlayStation, you cowards! Give me the wallet button.
I want to just throw money haphazardly at you at any time of day.
You know, that actually reminds me, did we ever really see any like utilization with the built-in speaker with the DualShock or the DualSense 5? Because as far as I can tell, everyone ignores it. And it occasionally screws with your audio settings
Yeah,
if like a thing looks
it does.
for the mic.
It has more adverse effects than anything. I
Did
mean,
anyone
honestly,
ever do anything with that?
the built-in speaker on the PlayStation 4 controller, I only ever heard it used in like that Tom Clancy game.
Well, the speaker, I mean, like some games like FF14 will do like the cue shang through it and some other noises like getting a message and stuff. But like the mic was supposed to be like a big deal because like games where you were able to talk to games, you'd be able to like look up stuff or ask for help or like do voice commands. And I haven't seen any support in anything yet that actually does that.
Updated a bunch of commands a couple months ago, but I don't use that stuff.
Right.
Even when they dropped like that Xbox Connect like voice control stuff, I never used it. It doesn't like it's just pick up the controller. Why be disruptive in your own house? I don't know. I don't get it. It was never something for me.
Yeah, that's wild.
But yeah, so we'll be keeping an eye on that. Let us know down in the comments what you think of that controller and if you're going to get one. Next up, big news. Knights of the Old Republic is reportedly being moved from Aspire Media to Saber Interactive. Obviously, we saw a couple weeks ago, maybe even a month or more, the Knights of the Old Republic remake was delayed indefinitely. Some people were fired after it was after a demo was showed. It was a Disney Interactive and Sony.
Really?
Yes.
Huh.
So, yes, people looking forward to Knights of the Old Republic. It looks like there is still a chance that we are going to get this game. So, rejoice. Yeah, that was touch and go for a second there. So, glad to see that there's still some life in this game.
Yeah, it's there's too many weird games that are like in like I don't want to say development hell because that has like a connotation of like they're still working on it and it's not going well. Whereas some of these are like pauses or something, but like between this and stuff like Beyond Good and Evil 2 and like the whole thing with Fable and the state of Halo Infinite, it's a weird time for developers, I feel like. Like maybe it's just specific ones or something, but like
I think that Cyberpunk 2077 really disrupted
yeah,
the market.
well, dude, we've seen so many delays, and it feels like all these companies realized like they watched CD Projekt Red go through the find out phase, and they were like, oh, we should stop fucking around.
Right.
And that's what it feels like, you know, like every game title. I mean, I think since that happened, maybe like Elden Ring and some other smaller games came out on time, and everything else under the sun got delayed. Forspoken got delayed. God of War got a delay, right? Xenoblade, I think, was like the only other one that didn't get a delay, right? They actually got like a weird acceleration, right? They switched places with something else.
Yeah, they switched places with Splatoon, I believe, which I think we all saw that coming too.
I love the idea of like Cyberpunk like being like the Hindenburg thing blowing up and like exploding and there's like fire and everything, and everyone else who's working on blimp things is like, oh shit, and they're all like delaying their stuff and being like, yeah, we need 6 more months, yeah, we need 9 more months, yeah, we need 3 more months, and Nintendo's like, oh god, that's horrible. hey Xenoblade, you're up early. You're like, oh no.
Yeah,
Like, obviously it worked, right? Because I've heard nothing but good things. But
right.
like, it's just funny that they must have. That means that Xenoblade must have been like on the block to be polished for like 9 months or some shit. Like just to make sure it was like perfect. I guess I don't know.
I did get a chance to play a little bit of it too, and I like it, man. I really like
Yeah,
the battle system. If you're familiar with like playing Final Fantasy 14, not to go back to that, it had the battle
yeah.
system does have like it's like a 2 DPS tank healer setup. So if you're
Set up,
familiar with that
yeah.
setup, you're gonna be right at home with this battle system. I
You know, it's
really
funny
enjoy it.
that that setup too. You know, it's funny you mentioned that actually because that setup isn't as weird as it seems. I think for people because
Mhm.
like I think we've sort of been taught to play that way in a lot of games for a long time actually.
That's fair.
Um, because I remember in Final Fantasy 9, and I think 7 had a lot of it too. But I noticed that the most in 9,
Mhm.
you had like your team would almost always have to have either Aiko or Garnet because they would heal. They actually had
Yes.
access to white magic. And then you would have characters like Zidane who would have like the protect style auto commands where like if someone was going to get killed by an attack, he would eat it.
Hmm.
Or if someone was like if a girl was going to take an attack, he would block for them
Yeah, he
because
had
it was
like
like a
the
gentleman's thing.
protect girls,
Yeah, something
literally
like that.
protect girls skill. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. Um, or cover. Even in FF7, you had the cover materia.
Hmm.
So like, it almost feels like those mechanics have been maybe not critical to the gameplay, but have been available and oftentimes were considered the better way to play the games if you were doing it correctly. If you were trying to like do hard fights and stuff.
Hmm.
So I think like as weird as I never made the connection, but I think like that modern MMO like tank healer DPS triangle is actually just built out of like the experimentation that happened in the early days of Final Fantasy with things
Natural
like cover. Because
progression,
even like
right?
FF4 had cover mechanics. Cecil could
Sure.
cover for people. So like I think it's always been there in spirit in some capacity, and it's just become like a mainstream accepted thing nowadays.
Hmm.
And it's funny to see that happen in a game like a single player strategy game like Xenoblade and be like, oh yeah, it's kind of like how the MMOs did it. And it's like, yeah, it is, but that kind of came from that. It's like a circle. It kind of came from old RPGs to like the MMO scene, and then back into like RPGs now. I just always thought it was funny because like I could tell you, like playing 7, playing 9, playing 10, I always had someone like Aerith. I always had someone like Garnet. I always had someone like Yuna.
You always had to have a healer in your
Um,
party. Yeah, yeah.
you always did that, yeah. It was just always the safe bet, right? You never went like 4 black mages in Final Fantasy 1 because it was like you're gonna die.
Hmm.
Um, and it's just interesting as a concept. I mean, I guess 10 was an exception because Yuna was just always there. You never had to like, you could swap her in at any time. It wasn't like you had to build your party and be ready for it kind of thing like the old FF games. But
A little bit more real time modular.
no, I guess I just kind of had like a weird epiphany right there in the middle of the podcast. Sorry about
That's cool.
that. I never thought about that in that context of
Right.
like the old games kind of taught us that inherently.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's funny. Video games, man, fucking wild,
Fucking video games, right?
cool as shit.
All right. So what do we have next here? This is more. This is your story because I don't know what the hell this is. So,
Oh yeah, Godot.
yeah, tell us about
Okay,
it.
so, long story short, I thought this was relevant to bring up given that the Unity situation that was happening. And for those of you who haven't been around the last few weeks or haven't heard about it, Unity is going through a thing right now.
They sure are.
Um, what is it like? They're all over the place. They pulled their forums down, or they were pulling their forums down, and I think they still are, which is where a lot of people go for answers,
Hmm.
which is a really bad because their documentation does not cover enough, and the forums were how a lot of people were getting help. And they're not even like archiving it; they're just pulling it, which is like holy shit. Um, they paired up with like a malware company. What was it? Iron Source, who does like straight up malware. So that was a bad thing that happened. And then like the CEO of the company was like, if you're not doing like microtransactions in your games, you're a fucking idiot. And then he walked it back by being like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be caught saying that, basically. So it's been and then even before all this, remember like a year ago when we still were doing the podcast, they changed their monetization options and everything, and it became a lot worse for people, a lot harder to actually use it and get a game out. And so at the end of the day, you've got all these things happening with Unity, and a lot of people are jumping ship from them, and they're moving to Unreal. They're moving to Game Maker. I think it's Game Maker 2 is the name of the engine now. That's the one that they used to make games like Deltarune and Undertale. And then you have Godot, which I don't know exactly what games have been made by Godot offhand. I can take a look real quick. But Godot is another option for aspiring game devs to work as an engine for them if they don't want to use Unreal or Unity, and then maybe not want to use Game Maker. They can use Godot. It's another option. Godot's very language heavy, so it's more like programming, and less like other languages like Unreal is very Blueprint, things like that. Very C++ C# oriented. But they just announced the other day that they're going to be removing what they call Visual Script, which it wasn't great, and that's why they're removing it. So I get it. It's not like they don't want to support people who like visual scripting. It's more that they're acknowledging that their tool isn't very good,
For sure.
and that's why they're not going to bother trying to support the tool anymore, because they don't have a good tool and they know it, and they don't think it's worth trying to support it when it's bad. So you will probably see somebody else make like plugins and things for Godot, which will give you like visual scripting again, like node-based scripting. But it's still sad to see it go, because like there are some amount of devs out there who are using it and will have to either pick up the hard coding from scratch or just move to another engine or something.
Sure.
So in some capacity, it is sad to see it happen.
It's one less option for developers in an already shrinking market because of the less and less of appeal that Unity's already bringing to the table.
Right, and that's the thing, is because like you have so there's a lot of people who are good at design and bad at programming.
Sure.
Like they're not technical people, but they're very good. Like they understand what they want a good game to be. And I think like a lot of gamers in general have a good sense of like what a game is that they enjoy. You know what I mean? They may not understand they might not have good object-oriented programming experience or permanence of that kind of thing. They may not be good with systems and stuff, or like doing 3D math with like vectors and dot products and everything. I'm sure there's a lot of people who are like even hearing me say like dot product and being like, what the fuck is that? But visual scripting in like the Unreal Engine or in things like Godot's Visual Script allows you to like lay out, blocks of like, I want, a character. Well, here's my character. It's this block. And he has the options like inputs in and outputs. And I can hook up, like, I can put like the Z button on my keyboard as an input to dude. And then I can have it be like when Z input jump. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that for a lot of people is way easier than cracking open C++ and being like creating like what do you call it? A whole thing for like the character, and then a different one for like the actions that can be done and the inputs. And you have to link the inputs into the character, and the character has to be able to do the actions, and you have to like create the classes, and you have to inherit from the class. Like a lot of people can't do that very well, or even if they understand it, they sit there and they like type it out and they like make mistakes and they have to go back and make mistakes and they have to go back. I know if you put me in front of the Unreal Engine, I can get a game up and running in seconds. I can slap some blueprint nodes together and be ready to go in no time. If you put me in front of C++, I am going to like henpeck at it while I get it set up, and it will not be set up until dinner time. So, it's sad to see the option for some people who are creative, but not programmingly like proficient, lose that option. You know what I mean? Now Godot isn't a particularly big one. I can't find any games that were made with Godot that you're going to recognize. Game Maker has some stuff like Risk of Rain and The Undertale and Deltarune. Godot, I think, is significantly smaller than that. However, no matter how small it is, it's still sad to see some part of some community go away until we get some kind of other option for people in there. I'm sure that people in Godot will be expanding the engine itself by adding some visual scripting support or some node support. But it's just one of those, like, I don't know. I guess with Unity's whole thing going on, it felt like the smart move for Godot would have been to like bring in a person who can make the visual scripting much better and take advantage of the fact that Unity's going to probably be hemorrhaging people.
Sure.
And don't just let, not, I love the Unreal Engine, but in their own interest, it would be to scoop people who are leaving Unity and not let Unreal just kind of vacuum them all up.
Sure, no doubt.
But
yeah, and it would be nice if like they did go like the visual scripting route too, because if you're doing something like coding in an oven, it's really hard to code in oven in the cold food and then of out hot eat the food. So
I heard oven and I just nodded. Like, yeah, he's making a metaphor, right? Like,
absolutely, how's that not a metaphor?
Was...
It's a textbook metaphor. You haven't heard that one before?
But you know what I mean? Like, I feel like I could sit you down with the Unreal Engine and blueprints, and I could get you programming a game in a day without actually teaching you C++. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I've seen that stuff in action.
I could show you. What's up?
I have seen that stuff in action.
Right. So like you can understand how it can take I can teach my kid to program in that without having to teach him about C++ and pointers and classes and inheritance.
Raspberry Pi has Raspbian OS, and that has a built-in visual drag and drop coding software built into it, and it's kind of focused on for hobbyists and kids that want to get into that kind of stuff. So yeah, I've seen that kind of stuff in action already.
We saw that on the Switch. Remember, there was a game on the Switch that came out in the summer.
Garage something?
Game Maker's Garage or something.
Yeah.
And it was literally a blueprint, visual scripting, drag and drop nodes. You take the characters, the actions they can take, and the button inputs, and you wire them together. My son does a programming language called Scratch, and it's 90% visual, and it's all blocks and wiring together. And it really allows people to be creative, and I think it's wild because I can't. There's no real substitute for that in things like art, right, or writing, or music creating. You can get programs to make the tools and to help you, but there's no way to completely change the game of making a song into some whole other method. Visual scripting is a whole different way to look at that problem that you don't really see in a lot of industries, and I feel bad because I know there's a lot of programmers and developers out there. No, I guess I shouldn't say programmers, but a lot of game developers out there and designers out there who do not do well with the rigid structure of programming language.
Right, but they're good at visualizing.
But they can storyboard
what result they want. Right.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, unfortunately, with Godot knocking that off their list of priorities, that leaves the Unreal Engine at the forefront, which. I love the Unreal Engine, but I know that there are a lot of people with valid criticisms about their ties to Epic and that tie to Tencent and yada yada yada.
Yeah.
So, while I do think Unreal is the best one on the market for the job, I also do understand the looming fear of Unreal one day just being
sure,
fuck it, we're on top already, and we've got this and that and this. Yeah, we're just going to start doing whatever the fuck we want.
Lack of competition is where you see
it can be dangerous for sure, especially with Unity.
People.
Right, well, especially with Unity kind of fucking it all up for themselves.
Right.
It's not good.
It's the only other major competition they have. So,
right.
And when they start hemorrhaging, then you don't really have much left.
And it doesn't help that, with Unity's steps for the last year have all been backward. And Unreal's steps for the last year have been Unreal Engine 5, Niagara, the Quixel Bridge, where you have these photorealistic graphics and these crazy processing abilities. Unreal is making leaps and bounds into the future of game design tech and all this, and Unity is shooting themselves in the foot and not making any progress. So it's I hear that the engine is making progress, don't get me wrong, but no one's going to look twice at them when they have all this baggage hanging on them.
Yep.
So
you're right.
I don't like to get bogged down in the technical side because this is the boring part of game stuff, right? The technical programming and engines and shit, but it's the kind of stuff that it's the kind of stuff that has ripples that go upward into the actual finished products of games.
Absolutely. So absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, I wanted to sneak that one in there.
No, that's fine. That's great. All right. So up next we have our big story of the week. It's the only story that we're going to really focus on. It's just Gamescom coverage. So I figured we would talk about this. We did get some new announcements. We got exactly almost what we expected to see at Gamescom as far as games that were already announced, as far as other newer trailers for already announced games. So opening night, we saw was a Sonic Frontiers came out with a new trailer, which it's so weird to me. Their marketing approach for this game is just so weird. Every time they show something new, the game looks a lot better. And it was we just had to kind of wait to get out of that IGN first phase with their trailers, because those trailers were kind of shitty.
Right.
And Sega was you guys just don't understand. It's wait, it's your responsibility
That's on you guys. Yeah, exactly.
to help us understand what this game is. But yeah, we saw this trailer, running it now. It looks really good. It looks a lot better than what I was
Yeah.
expecting, because this, compared to like the first trailer that we saw of this game, is leaps and boundsly different. And we finally did get an announcement for this, as far as the release date. That will be coming November 8th. I don't know if that's going to come on the Switch November 8th, but again, it's still announced for all those platforms, so we'll see.
Yeah.
I'd be really interested to see what it looks like on the Switch, as far as, how far the distance this is going to draw. If they're going to use like fog to kind of, reduce the need to draw stuff in the background, and like further away things, but
They're, they're
should be
gonna
interesting.
the Switch version's gonna not have Sonic.
Yeah, they're just going to
You'll
take
just
this off.
navigate
Yeah,
the area without like with the
it's
missing
just a
model.
floating camera.
It's the drawing of Sonic, and he just has like the 2D paper 2D, and he like flips.
No, but yeah, I mean, this
Yeah.
definitely looks strange. Like, they introduced like new characters, and we saw Amy there. We saw some strange girl that looks like she's made of computery futuristic lighting, I guess, for the lack of better terms.
She's made of leftover Godot visual script.
Nice.
No.
We saw some new trailers of Hogwarts Legacy. Gotham Knights got a new trailer. Goat Simulator got a trailer. That's the only trailer I think I saw of games that were already announced. Outlast Trials, of course, the Callisto Protocol, Return of Monkey Island, The Expanse. They all got trailers as well. So, and then we saw some new announcements. A strange game from a Rockstar co-founder here. It's called Everywhere, and I watched this trailer 3 times, and I still don't know what the fuck I saw. I don't know if you got a chance to see it or not.
Yeah, I remember like. So. I don't know. I've always been like iffy about the format of this kind of trailer, where like it's mix and match, people talking about it, and then the
Right.
game, and then talking about it. It's like, I get it, but it gives me the same problems that Sonic Frontiers trailers had, where it's like I'm not really getting what this game is really going on about. I don't have a cohesive narrative painted for me. It's like you said, I don't know what I'm looking at. Like,
Right.
and coupled with it being like Rockstar affiliated, it's like it's weird to see Rockstar affiliated and then also like magical worlds with things happening. It's like,
Sure. So
I don't
yeah,
know.
the trailer kind of started with like, I guess, like some of the developers like, oh, this is going to be, I'm excited to be part of this like new thing. We're doing all this new stuff, and everything's going to be different than the older game. It's like they're really hyping it. I get it.
Mhm.
I
Right.
question the end result and like what their actual ideal scope is of this. So it was almost like a 2-part trailer, where like they're showing a bunch of different spaces where players are interacting. They almost look like some like Fortnite stuff going on here, some other stuff going on here. I don't know if it's trying to be like a Second Life kind of game, or like another modernized metaverse game where you can do all kinds of different stuff, and maybe it's kind of more like a Roblox. But then they show that content, and then they snap to like another thing of like a guy looking at a screen, and he's all worried, and it's a completely
Yeah.
different art style, and there's like stuff going on in the background, and I'm like, what the fuck did I just watch? I still don't. Obviously, I mean, we're gonna get some more information in the future about it, but at the time, I mean, this trailer, is asking more questions than it answered at this point. So I'm really
Right.
weirded out about it. So I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully, we'll have some more information, maybe during Game Awards or something coming up. But we also saw the trailer for Moonbreaker. That's the new game
Mhm.
announced for Unknown Worlds, and we knew that they were going to announce a new game. This looks really interesting. It almost looks like kind of like a mix. Someone said, what's that tile game from World of Warcraft?
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. We saw that
um,
last year, right?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I don't know. It's almost like a tactics game, but it uses like D&D minis, but they don't talk, like, so they don't move, but they have like voice acting and stuff. It's really interesting. It looks like you can completely customize them, all your little pieces. I think this is coming out on most or all platforms, but the painting integration looks really really interesting. for game
Oh
designers, if you
yeah.
don't know what ZBrush is, it looked like it had kind of like a ZBrush
Yep.
integration built into it, so you
It
can
totally does,
really
dude. That's funny.
customize your little like mini pieces. And it's almost looks like it's going to be like a tactical battle game. Style wise, it kind of reminded me of like Borderlands. So yeah, I'm
Yeah,
interested
dude.
to
The
see
first
what
thing I
that
said when
is.
I watched.
Mhm.
Oh man, that was like the first thing I said when I watched the trailer. I was like, "This is very Borderlands looking."
Right.
That's funny.
So yeah, I'm excited for that. I really enjoyed their previous games. So yeah, we'll definitely take a look at that. I've got a trailer for new Tales from the Borderlands. It looks like they're getting the core developer team back to make this game. So people will probably be
Nice.
certainly relieved for that for the old Tales from the Borderlands game. We saw a trailer for Lies of P. That a weird game or a weird game name, but this looks like it's like kind of like if American McGee did like a Pinocchio game, maybe like almost like a Dark Souls looking like Pinocchio themed game. It's very
Right.
dark looking. I really like the setting of it. I'll be interested to see what more comes of this as far as like gameplay. I want to see some more explanation of the game world. But so far, no, I mean, kind of came out of left field, but it looks great.
Yeah.
Another way out of left field game, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Haven't heard of this IP in 20 years, but this will be another like 4v1 asymmetrical horror survival game, kind of like Dead by Daylight. Um, I'm not huge into those games, but it's just interesting to see this IP come out of fucking nowhere again, like coming out of left field. Um,
Right.
we got a trailer for Dune Awakening. Everyone seemed to be really on board with this until at the end it said survival MMORPG, and I was like, it's just like a unanimous groan. That's coming out of Funcom, and then Dead Island 2. We certainly weren't expecting that after they accidentally released pre-orders like 2 weeks early on Amazon. I have a sneaking suspicion those were supposed to go live for like an original Gamescom date, and they forgot to change the date. Um,
Right.
but yeah, so they showed the trailer. I can't show it here because I'll get immediately age restriction for showing it because it is a bloodbath trailer. But it looks good. I mean, the
Yeah.
zombies look like they're just blood water balloons in this game. So I mean, it was gory. I'm like, damn, that's a lot of blood even for me. But I'm here for it. So yeah, we're finally getting a Dead Island 2. That is coming February 3rd. So we got an official announcement of date on that. And obviously, you can pre-order the game on Amazon already. I'm sure many people already have. And then we got a trailer for Lords of Fallen coming out of Deck 13. And that was kind of opening night. So that was like, if you went in with like tempered expectations, I think you'll walk out of this kind of whelmed. So it's it was an okay event. I think if you went in with the expectation that this is going to be a big E3 announcement kind of situation, nope, no, it wasn't that.
Right.
But we got kind of like a 50-50 split of games that were already announced and a couple of new games coming out. I'm excited for a couple of them. I mean, it's nothing that's like blowing the doors off of anything, but I think the big ones are probably Moonbreaker, probably Liza P, and
Yeah.
obviously Dead Island 2 as far as the new games that were announced. Go ahead.
I just the Lords of the Fallen, as in a sequel to Lords of the Fallen.
Yeah, I was confused by that too. I was like, they already have one. Are they just remaking the original, or is it a sequel? It
This
seems like
was
it's a
like
sequel.
it's like the Hobbit meme where he's like, what about Lords of the Fallen? And they're like, we had Lords of the Fallen. He's like, have you had the Lords of the Fallen? like,
Have you heard about Second
okay,
Breakfast?
yeah. Have you heard about Second Lords of the Fallen? But like without even putting a two in it. Oh man, I don't. Well, because I just like, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm not sure if you'll remember, so correct me if I'm wrong about this. I thought Lords of the Fallen tried to come out and compete with like another Souls like title pretty much at the same time, and
Mm-hmm.
it bottomed out. Didn't Lords of the Fallen do really bad?
Bad enough for me to never hear of it until today.
Okay, I'm pretty sure it was Xbox exclusive,
Mm.
and it was a
Oh,
Souls like that just had missing mechanics from Souls likes. Like, yeah, I wish I could remember I just remember reading like about it and being like, oh yeah, there's a lot of valid complaints about why this game doesn't even actually do a Souls like correctly. Like, there's just things that people
oh boy.
expect, quality of life that's missing. Um,
Well, Souls doesn't even do
and
quality of life.
yeah, sure. But no, it was like things like the way that your respawn was really bad, or like getting your experience back wasn't a thing, or there was like it was a
Hmm.
lot of weird decisions that led to it being panned, if I remember right.
Interesting.
Let
So
me
maybe they just went
see.
back to the drawing board. They're going to try it again, and we'll see.
They did put the in the front of it. I
That's
mean,
impressive.
it's okay. I'm looking now again. Take this stuff with a grain of salt. Metacritic's the journalist reviews are at a 68, and the user score is at a 6.4. So they're pretty in line with each other.
You don't see that often.
And not liking this game.
Right.
um, that was for PlayStation 4. Xbox One is a 71 and a 66. PC is a 73 and a 68. So it seems like this was just panned by everybody.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, more power to them if they can. I'm just more surprised to see a sequel get greenlit on the back of that, especially this much later, because that was like near Xbox One's infancy. So it's been a good several years now.
Sure.
What a weird. I'm not gonna comment. Game. Some people make weird decisions. Money goes to weird places. I don't know. They
No
convinced
doubt.
somebody to pay for it. So
No doubt.
Godspeed, Lords of Fallen again.
So Xbox had a 6-hour stream at Gamescom for their own thing. I,
Nice.
I, yeah. So I guess they did Microsoft up or Microsoft Flight Simulator update. They got a new map.
Did we get catapults?
No
Catapult
catapults in
interview?
Flight Simulator.
Oh,
A Plague's Tale Requiem got a new trailer that looked pretty interesting.
yeah.
They did a
Looks a solid game.
Lives of P interview. Gunfire Reborn that actually looks pretty cool. I would probably
Hmm.
check. I would definitely check that out. And then they just like did a Sea of Thieves dev interview. And a High on Life dev interview, which that game looks okay. That'll be on Game Pass, so it's like if you're on Xbox, you don't have to worry about taking a risk financially on that game. I don't
What
know. I
game is
kind of
that? High
like
on
that's
Life?
the one. That's the Justin Roiland game
Oh, it's the new,
where
yeah,
all the
for like
weapons
Rick and
talk
Morty
and shit.
creator.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. I've been seeing that. That game has been making the rounds on Twitter lately. I don't know
it
if you've seen
has.
it for that.
It's getting a lot of
Um,
mixed responses about just like the level of humor, kind of missing the mark, um, and then people who are basically saying that Rick and Morty fans, not Rick and Morty fans can't really relate, and even Rick and Morty fans are like this humor just seems like it's just kind of missing the mark. Um,
I think my problem with what I've seen of it is it's very like low brow,
right,
like I'm a knife, I stab stuff. And it's like, okay, yeah, you're a knife and you stab, like sure. And then he's like, oh, I fucking love stabbing, and it's like, yeah, this is definitely that type of humor that you get in that show. But in the show, that kind of humor is mixed sparingly between witty comments and things like that, and
right,
that's not here. It's literally just constantly being like that bottom half. I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
And it looks like I even saw someone criticize it, saying the game looks okay, but I'm not a Rick and Morty fan, but it looks like these guns never shut the fuck up. Like people just don't stop talking in the game. Like there's just constant
Yeah, it
disposition.
suffers from that sort of constant,
Right.
like you can't have dead space where no one's talking. Yeah, that is a problem
I think
too.
that's what that is, and so you're kind of getting like writing style of a sitcom kind of bleeding into a game where it doesn't
I was
really
just gonna
fit.
say
Yeah.
it's almost like writing for a show bleeding into a game where you
Right.
don't. You can have segments where no one really talks for 3 minutes while you're fighting a combat fight, or maybe like one comment is made.
Hmm.
Like, dude, if I was playing Bioshock Infinite and I was fighting dudes, like I don't mind when like occasionally Elizabeth has like a dialogue line because
Sure.
we're fighting a certain dude, or like she'll like yell Booker to throw me ammo. But
Hmm.
like I would be livid if the whole time I'm fighting these like goons on Bioshock Infinite, like she's in the corner just being like, "Look at all these guys. These guys just keep coming. Wow, look at that guy. That guy's really big." Like, oh my god, are you fucking
Like
serious?
if you can make it work, I bet it would do gangbusters. But it's like getting that to work
Yeah,
is a lot of work. And if,
yeah, it's
but yeah, I don't know.
yeah.
We'll see on that one. That's for sure. So yeah,
I know they made part of them making the news was, oh, I like Games Radar even put up an article, High on Life Dev promises the guns aren't blabbing all the time, because that's what the perception
oh
is, right?
no,
Like
yeah,
it
yeah.
looks like that.
Well, and like
Um,
when you have a game where your guns talk, the trailers are going to showcase that. So I can see that
Right.
misperception. I get it. Totally understand.
But I guess the other problem too was like a lot of people said it was kind of what's a good word for it? They had a segment where like there was a kid, like an actual in-game, the character was like a kid, and he was like, "Yeah, you can't kill me, I'm a kid." And the gun was like, "Yeah, you don't kill kids in video games." And then the player shoots him and he dies. And they're like, "Holy shit, you just killed a kid!" And he's like, "Yeah, like you're not supposed to do that in video games." And like we get what you're doing, but like that joke got stretched out for a full minute. Like it wasn't just like you shot the guy and then the gun was like, I'm pretty sure that was a kid. I don't think you can do that. No, it was like there was a whole conversation about how he's a kid and you can't kill kids. And then he killed him. And then he was like, oh my God, I can't believe you killed him, even though he's a kid. They took that joke and put it through the ringer. You know what I
Sure,
mean?
sure.
Like, and a lot of people were like, this just feels like edgy for edgy's sake at this point. Like, it'd be one thing to have that as a quick quip of like, holy shit, I think that was a kid. But like, that's not what they did. They like dragged it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Which is weird because even on stuff like Rick and Morty, that's what you would see. On Rick and Morty, you would see like Rick shoot someone, and Morty would be like, "Jesus Christ, was that a kid?" And Rick would be like, "Don't think about it" or something. Like that's how they do their humor on that show. So this just feels weird. I wonder how much of the Rick and Morty team is in this, and how much of it is like they had to fill holes or like hire outside to replace. Because like you don't, they're different things entirely. You can't just move the team from the show into the studio for the game.
Right, right,
So I
right.
wonder what kind of disconnects we're going to have for that, right? Because people are expecting Rick and Morty to show the game basically out of this, like they
Hmm.
did with the other stuff, in some capacity. I don't know. I guess we'll have to see how it goes. I don't know.
I'm there
I've
with you.
seen so much of this on Twitter all of a sudden, and it's just because of that clip and the clip of the knife or whatever. All of a sudden,
Yeah,
and it's like, holy
I've
shit.
certainly gotten very comfortable in my own age not buying games day one. And it has saved my ass a lot of
Mhm.
money. So this
Yeah,
will
of
be
course.
one of many thousands of games that I will not buy day one and wait for reviews because
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
just
I
the smart
tend to
move
not.
nowadays.
You know what's funny? My my day one purchases in the last couple of years that I've done day one that have been good purchases. I mean, I did obviously like Endwalker for Final Fantasy, but that's like such an established, tried and true franchise that I don't have to worry about it. Um, Most of it's been like indie stuff, like Tunic. I bought Tunic like day of, and it was. I do not regret it in the slightest. It was a fantastic experience.
Yep.
Um, and Turtles. I bought Turtles on day one. Same thing.
What a
And
fucking awesome game!
yeah, absolutely. I just feel like is it weird to say that again it's yet another year where it feels like the AAA studios are like doing their thing and trying to make their stuff work and the indie titles are out here banging.
They're just slamming.
So it's
Yeah.
like I mean obviously not all of them but like it just feels like I can't say I bought Vampire Survivors on day, but like as soon as I was told about it, I bought it and I
Sure.
enjoyed every hour that I poured into that game for the very low price tag that it was. Um
Devolver Digital's knocking it out of the fucking park like they always do.
yeah, I mean
They're
like look at
announcing a
stuff
new game
like
tomorrow, and I'm interested to see what that's going to be.
I haven't seen people have any complaints about stuff like Inscription. I haven't seen people have any complaints about stuff like what's the other one that we saw make the rounds?
Cult of the Lamb was awesome, but I will say, Death's Door again. That's another one that kind of blew off with
Oh yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah, Death Story. Yep.
But Cult of the Lamb is great, except for the part in the beginning where you could get soft locked. But
Yeah, yeah, you mentioned
besides
that.
that, fucking awesome game.
What about
Indie games are the move. That's the move nowadays. That's really where we're at with it.
what's that other one? Oh no. Not Cold and Lamb because that just came out. There was another one.
Witchwood,
No, that sucks. I'm not gonna remember it, am I?
unbelievable.
Just had it right there and then I lost it. Hang on. So we talked about Tunic. We talked about Vampire Survivors. Oh, there was like Loop Hero was good, right?
Loop Hero was phenomenal. Yep.
I heard good things about Isle of Cards.
Hmm.
That's not really an indie game though. That's Yogi Taro, whoever
Hmm.
the guy from Nier.
Oh, I didn't know
So I
that.
wouldn't
That's
exactly
cool.
call it like an indie title.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like a big AAA thing where they went all out on it either. It
Sure.
was one of their just like, hey, he wants to make this game and it's weird as shit, but like, okay, I guess. No, there was another indie title that like everybody was on about, and now I can't remember what it was. Turtles happened. I am not going to be able to get it.
It's broadcast brain, dude.
Damn.
Every time the cameras goes on, my speech slurs, my memory goes to shit. I totally get it.
You played it. Oh, you played
I
it.
played it.
So it was one of the games where it was a newer game in a running franchise that
Haven?
got B-rolled. What was it?
Haven?
I don't know. No, it was like we watched the Nintendo Direct and they B-rolled a bunch of games that looked good,
Opus.
and one of them looked really, yeah, Opus, right?
Mhm,
Yeah. And it was like a whole franchise behind that,
Yeah.
and they're all like decent. Like, well, I can't say decent. You played one and said you really liked it, right?
I liked it, but I'm scared to play the sequel now. Well, it's not a sequel, but they're individual stories.
Like the next one.
The first one was so sad that I'm scared to play the second one. Like, I don't
That's
get me
great,
wrong,
though,
I
isn't it? Like,
absolutely
that
love the
good.
game, but oh my god, did it kill me?
Right. But that's good though, isn't it?
It is good.
That's funny.
Yeah, if you can invoke an emotion like that with such a simple game, fuck, dude. Oh, I'm gonna get broken up about it. All right, let's move on.
Yeah. It just seems like we get a lot of that, and then when we talk about AAA games, outside of playing Final Fantasy 14, they're not doing it for me for the last while. Like, I had fun with Outriders. I didn't play Elden Ring, so there's that one.
I got bored of Elden Ring really quick.
Yeah, I don't blame you. No, just AAA gaming isn't really doing it. Like, some
It's
stuff
not.
seems cool, and we get our in-between things here and there, but it feels like the biggest things for me are either 14 or Final Fantasy 16, which are both Yoshi products. And just sitting here looking at every event that comes around and being like Kingdom Hearts 4, and they don't do Kingdom Hearts 4, and I go, yeah, I figured.
Yeah,
Yep.
pretty much. Yeah, and that's kind of been my move for like the last maybe half a decade now. It's just like I've kind of really focused down a lot of indie games. I have a lot more fun with them.
Dude,
They're always
the last-
unique. They're always a fun experience.
the last few months, all I've been doing on Twitter is following indie game devs and wishlisting their games on Steam. And they like my Steam wishlist right now is full of indie games that are coming out the back half of this year and next year.
Nice.
That look fantastic. They're RPGs. They're top down. They're turn based. They're
Dude, that
action games,
Sea of
platformer games,
Stars
Metroidvania
game
games.
looks
Yes, Sea of Stars is on there on my
incredible.
list. Dude, I have like
What was that game that we were
Here.
talking about before the stream? The one that went with a demo?
Chained Echoes.
Chained Echoes. Okay, if you're on
has a
Steam
demo
and you're
up
seeing this
today.
live, go download Chained Echoes demo on Steam right now.
Yep, it's available right now still. Like remember we sat down one week and I showed you a bunch of indie trailers I found, and they were all awesome. One guy was making a game with like Ghibli style art. One guy was making what was it, Railbound? Did you see Railbound where like you make the trains and everything and you have to do like the whole puzzles?
No, I have
That was
not
really
seen
cool. Oh, that one's really cool. Master Key. It was like a Link's Awakening style top down game of just black and white
that.
pixels.
Yeah. Oh, that one looks really good. That does look
That
cool.
one looks really cool. Astria, the six-sided oracles, that like dice-based RPG. Remember we saw that one? God, literally the last like 25 entries on my wish list. Bo, Path of the Teal Lotus. I've been telling you about Bo. The Japanese like Metroidvania style game. Lost Ruins is a game that's on my list. I've got Suino's Curse is another like Hollow Knight style Metroidvania. I've got Rune Fencer Ilya is another one. I've got Chained Echoes is an RPG. I've got Hyper Light Breaker, which isn't exactly an indie game, but is on my list.
That's an indie. I would call that an indie game.
Berserk Boy. Remember I showed you that game? It was like a Mega Man X style game. So many fantastic little indie games that I have just tucked away that I'm waiting for them to come out. And it's the coolest shit. Like, all these people, they're like passion projects by fans who really enjoyed these genres and are making things that revisit what we liked about them.
Sure.
You know? And you know what's funny? Most of these games look like they would belong on the SNES, and I'm not surprised.
I'm here for it, man. That was like one of the best eras of great RPGs, man.
Yeah, and I just feel like the SNES is like, we've had this discussion before, but I feel like the SNES was when like we had peaked on the tech side and we were able to just start designing openly without problems and worrying about tech debt and worrying about how we're going to make it happen and cutting mechanics because they're complicated and cutting mechanics because they're hard to pull off or no one's done this before. Like, no, it had gotten to the point with the SNES where like you could do pretty much anything on it.
Yeah.
And and therefore design space opened up a lot for people to just be creative. And I think we saw that again. Actually, it's funny. I never mentioned it before, but I think we saw that at the end of the 3DS life cycle. Because the end of the 3DS life cycle had some absolute bangers.
Sure did.
One of the best Zelda games I've ever played was Link Between Worlds. Holy shit, that game's the creativity of how they handled the platforming mechanic and like the puzzles and everything in that game, how they handled the entire world. Fucking genius design, dude. Like, and they never went back to that. I mean, they kind of did with Breath of the Wild, and I give them credit for that. But like, Link Between Worlds was like, you open the game up and they were like, yeah, get started, yada yada. You can have all your weapons right off the rip, all your special skill ability, whatever the fuck you want to call them. They're there. Just grab them and bring them with you and whatever. And now solving the world isn't so much about this weird path through the world where like you need this and then you got to go here and then you need this and then you need this.
Yeah, because it let
and then
you
need
rent
this.
the
It's like
weapons.
you could fucking explore the world, like legitimately explore. Like Link Between Worlds is the first time in a long time where I felt like I was exploring a world openly and just being like, I'm gonna go here and look what's here. I'm gonna go over there and see what's there. Like it wasn't like my next objective is at this location. I have to go that way, and then if I go off the path, well, these dudes are too strong. There's a gate. There's a door. There's a barrier. Yada yada. Like I was just fucking just walking around, like being like, what is over here? Like, and sometimes you'd find a dungeon and be like, holy shit, one of the dungeons I need to find. Like it was the coolest shit, dude. Like. And Breath of the Wild had some of that, but it was bogged down with like the breaking the weapons and
Yeah, it
the
wasn't a
maps
fan
were
of the.
kind of big and kind of empty, which was a bit of a problem
Sure.
sometimes. But like, I'm hoping Breath of the Wild 2 takes the best lessons out of Breath of the Wild's success and merges them with things from like Link Between Worlds and just makes a fucking interesting world to explore that you can just explore. Man, it was cool as shit. And it's a 3DS game, you know what I mean? Like. That was cool as shit.
Yep.
I could talk about that game forever.
If they give you all the weapons up front, it's going to de-incentivize you from playing the game. Which is obviously not true.
Oh my god. No, well, that was the best part was not only that. Not only did it open up the world design to be creative, because now you never had to worry about does the player have the right items. Players aren't walking around being like trying to remember like I can't go here yet because I don't have this or I don't know what to do in this room. None of that happened. You had all the tools the whole time. It was just about solving puzzles and figuring out what to do with those tools, and where you wanted to go. And then on top of that, the dungeon design was allowed to change. Because remember in dungeons, in the Ocarina of Time style, Majora's Mask style dungeons, it's always like, go in dungeon, do half a dungeon, find like the bow. Now you can do the half the dungeon you couldn't do because you didn't have the bow. Fight the boss who's weak to the bow. Like, dungeon, right? And in Link Between Worlds, it was like, welcome to the dungeon. You already have all your tools and shit, so like it's just a thematic dungeon that doesn't require you to like, I can't solve these rooms because I don't have these items. No, you have everything.
Right.
You can solve them in any order that you want to. And there was still treasures in those dungeons, but it was like armor upgrades and shield pieces, things to make better shields and sword upgrades. Like,
right. Or getting the weapon
you were still getting rewarded, you know? But you didn't have this weird like you walked in the dungeon and it was like a fire dungeon, and you're like, okay, there's gonna be an ice rod. I'm not gonna be able to do half the dungeon until I get the ice rod. Then I can use the ice rod to get the other half of the dungeon, and then the boss is gonna be weak to ice. It was like, no, you walked in there and it was like a fire dungeon, and you just had to platform it and solve the puzzles and make your way through it. And the item halfway through it was like the mirror shield. That was a completely optional item to pick up, and it was just cool as shit. That like it was all just you could do it. You really had this authentic world of mystery that. Video games are hard to do because you want to tell the story and you want to make sure that they do it the right way. You know, it's really hard to be like, I want them to experience it a certain way, but also let them do whatever the fuck they want. And that game did a really good job of it. It's that I think is I think that's one of gaming's hardest things to get right. Is that line between letting people do whatever they want and also threading the needle of a good story and narrative.
Creating the illusion that the game is not linear, but it's still linear.
Right. Man, they did it so good in that game in particular.
That's why that game is like one of my in my top 5 Zeldas.
Yeah, dude. I always forget about it because it's like a sequel to Link to the Past, so it feels like it should have been like kind of like a side game, but it wasn't. It was a straight up blowout like entry.
Yep.
I cannot. I have to imagine if I look that game up that the reviews for that game are like phenomenal. I can't imagine like who didn't like that game.
I don't know.
Oh man. We can move on while I do that thing I just said I'm gonna do
Yeah, no
because
problem.
I will be mad if it doesn't have a high rating.
All right, let's move on. So we talked about the snooze fest that was the Xbox live stream. Future Game Show incorporated a couple of new-ish releases. I think we saw SCP files already, but they announced God of Rock. I don't know if you saw the trailer for that. That was interesting because not only is it a rhythm game, but it's like a fighting rhythm game. So it's like kind of like that KOTOR here, where you have to keep the beat to a song, but you're controlling your player that's doing fighting moves on the top. So it's kind of like you have like a Street Fighter, but you have the music notes kind of going to the side, and you're like, doing a tempo thing to control your player that's affecting how well they fight. I thought that was pretty interesting as a concept. Not for
Oh, that's
me,
cool.
but I think it's really, really
Right.
cool. Um,
Well,
we
it's the
also
same thing with like
got
what was that? What was that game we saw that was like Doom, but it was to the beat?
yeah,
You remember
I
that?
remember that. It had
Mark
like
played
a
it. You played the
big
demo.
soundtrack with like System of a Down and a couple other
Yeah,
bands.
yeah, a bunch of heavy rock bands and metal bands.
Hmm.
That was the same thing. Like I watched Dark play the demo for that, and I'm like, this is cool as shit, but it is not for me. I would
Right.
not actually enjoy having to do this.
Yeah, I get it.
Like it'd be like playing Destiny and being like, you can only do like bullets and abilities on beat, and it'd be like, no, this isn't for me.
Hmm.
It fucks with me to not
I worry
have
about it. Yeah, I worry about
it.
that, just
Like,
not being able to keep a beat that directly affecting the gameplay. Like that's kind of where I
well,
am.
that's the thing for me is because like I feel like if you have to do things at intervals like that,
Hmm.
and it's not like a top like Crypt of the Necrodancer is fine because you have that sort of top-down map. But like in a game like Destiny, imagine if you're playing a game like Destiny and you can only fire your Gallahorn shots on beat, and if you were off beat, you just didn't shoot. Like imagine missing all these opportunities to like get that perfect shot lined up, get that perfect group of ads pulled together, that perfect grenade toss into like three dudes that are coming out of a gate at the right time, and you're missing all this shit because you're not on beat or something. Like that just feels more frustrating to me than enjoyable. But I mean, different strokes, right?
Sure,
That's just not for me or whatever.
sure. Yeah. So we saw this was an interesting one. It's called EXP War Trauma. It was like I don't know, like World War I, World War II. Like someone stuck in trenches. There's some like zombie themes going on. But the trench is like a maze, and you can see him kind of like navigating this maze. Goes down a hole, falls down the hole, and he's back to where he started. He's like, yeah, and it was fun. It was great because there was like a lot of swearing, and there's like, "You fucking Christ! I was just here. I don't understand."
Yeah.
But um, yeah, that one looked really bizarre. So I'm interested to see how that plays out. Um,
Mhm.
and then we saw a trailer for The Devil in Me. That looks pretty interesting. Let's take a look here. Whoops. So that one, I don't remember this trailer. Oh, okay, so it's kind of got some like, um, it looks like you're kind of like solving horror, almost like a Saw kind of thing. Like it's a four-player like co-op, like you're stuck in like a Saw movie kind of thing, and you're solving your
Mhm.
way out of it. So that looks pretty cool too. I might look into that.
Yeah.
It sounded like I recognize one of the voice actors, and I don't remember the name now. Jennifer Lawrence. I think Jennifer Lawrence was doing some voice acting in that. But
That makes sense. She likes like B movie like horror stuff, right?
sure. Then SCP files, secret files. This looks interesting. It kind of looks like a maybe like an X Files, but done in like a Victorian era.
That's cool.
Since the
Oops.
beginning of
Keep playing audio. Can't play the audio.
Well, the whole like SCP community thing is like I really respect the SCP groups and people who like that stuff because it's
Mhm.
cool. It's its own whole culture at this point.
Sure.
I just can't get into it. Like I've read some of their stuff and I've watched like a video or two on YouTube where like people did like the mock-ups of like this is the SCP and its origin and everything. I
Mhm.
just never get into it. I don't know. Maybe it's just not for me. Like I'm not like a horror person or something.
Yeah, I'll have to take a look here.
But
I'm actually confusing it with another game as far as the aesthetic, but yeah, this game looks really strange. It's got some like weird horror computer, almost like a modernized like horror, but it's kind of like futuristic, kind of not. It looks like it snaps between like a 2D game, some different realities, but it's got like some heavy X Files undertones. Um,
right.
it looks pretty cool. I'll have to check it out. I could definitely see why this wouldn't be a game for you. It looks
Yeah,
scary.
yeah, for
It
sure.
looks like it has some like jump scare elements to it too, but
Oh, see,
um,
that's like I don't mind games where like there's like a sense of dread the entire time,
mhm,
but like jump scares just I can't say it's cheap, but I think for me
sure.
it's just it feels cheap to me
Hmm.
and like I don't know. It's not enjoyable, right? Like it doesn't. I don't actually get enjoyment out of being jump scared, and
That's fair.
therefore don't pursue those kinds of things. You know, it's like roller
Right.
coasters. Like I don't go on roller coasters that go really high and then do big drops because I don't want to do that. I get the thrill of that for some people, but for me, it's not an enjoyable situation, so I just don't do them.
Right, right. No, I totally get it. And the last one on the future game show was a game called Deliver Us from Mars. It really had a lot of like what reminded me of like story beats of like all of that like whole 2000s era of like let's go to Mars movies that like we had like a big streak of those kind of style movies. Um, so I'm interested to see that play out. It looks like it's very high drama, um, high intensity gameplay. So yeah, I'll definitely be checking that out. It almost looks like it kind of plays like almost more thematic, like more story driven, like something like a Detroit to Human, where there's not much. There's some gameplay obviously, but it's a little bit more narrative driven than anything.
Right.
So yeah, that looks pretty cool too. So I'll definitely be checking that out. All right. So that's what we have for Gamescom. If you want to let us know in the comments down below what you thought and what your favorites were of this show. And then I guess we have a couple more. We talked about last week a couple more things coming up, and I think the next one is the Disney show. They're going to be talking about a lot
Yep.
of games here. So yeah, we'll certainly
Oh
be covering that
man.
as well.
I hope we get Kingdom Hearts, but who knows? Um, I will say, and it's not something that you're probably going to be interested in, but I have a 7-year-old daughter who wanted to try it, so we did try it. Um, that Disney like slice of life sim game was it
Hmm.
Dream Valley?
Hmm.
That game has a like a not a demo, but like on Steam you can download the character creator demo
Okay.
thing,
Hmm.
and you can make your character, you can dress them up, you can customize their clothes, and then you can put them in a room with different Disney characters, take pictures of them and stuff. And then when the full game launches, you can move those characters into the game as your actual avatar and then play the game with it. So that was cool.
Nice.
Um, she had a good time doing that. I will say that the item creator, whatever you want to call it, like you can make like backpack or shirt or hat or something. It's actually pretty wild because like you get like a blank hat like this or whatever, and then they give you like 100 or a couple hundred options to pick from for like patterns and paint colors and things you can do with it, and then it stores it in layers. You can actually have up to 50 layers on the item of clothing. So like
Hmm.
you can actually do some really crazy customization with it because you can it's all layered. It's
Hmm.
wild.
That's
I
pretty cool.
it was really weird to see how in depth they went on the character creators like custom outfit pieces because they set the bar pretty high for that compared to what most games usually do where it's like here's your preset options or whatever. So that was interesting. It
Hmm.
was kind of cool to see them do that, you know?
Hmm.
Because I mean, you get like games like Sims and shit don't even have that half the time. You have to get like mods and packs for like the outfits and stuff.
Right.
So it was cool to see that level of detail put into that. But I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I couldn't say. It was cool.
Right on. Ooh, color correction looks terrible. What else do we have? That's it for Gamescom, so we can move on to our upcoming games here in just a second. Let me turn off that color correction. There we go. All right, so let's move on here. We have upcoming releases here. I already have this one pre-ordered for a hot minute. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Cowabunga Collection is coming out. I think it was Jeff Grubb talking about it a little bit that there's like a big, he can't talk about, there's like a big thing with this game that they kind of incorporated. And then I saw, was it RGT85 post a picture of James Avery today. So I think,
Yeah.
I have a sneaking suspicion that they incorporated some of his old voice acting clips of the show as kind of like a tribute, and it's integrated into the game.
Right.
So I'm be interested to see what it's just a sneaking suspicion. That's not verified or anything. So I'll be interested to see that. I'm excited for that. That is coming Tuesday. So this is one thing we both noticed before the show. All of these games are coming out Tuesday this week, which obviously
Yep.
has always been like a big game release day. But like that's it. So everything is coming Tuesday. So we got a lot of stuff going up against
Absolutely.
each other. Inscription is getting ported to the PS5. That's coming Tuesday. Dusk
Mhm.
Diver 2 coming to the Switch, PS4, and PS5. Excuse me. Tinykin coming to Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, PS4, and PS5. Aliens Fire Elite Pathogen, and that is coming to Xbox Series X and S, PS4, and PS5. Commandos 3 HD Remaster. It's coming to Xbox One, PS4, and Switch. Immortality coming to the Xbox Series X. Back for Blood, Children of the Worm, Xbox Series X and S, or X and S, yeah. Zero Escape, Zero Time Dilemma, Xbox One, and Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobed, that is coming to Xbox One. I would assume that those last 4 announcements are probably going to be Game Pass games. I haven't really looked into that.
Yeah, Zero Escape, I think was like, God, wasn't that like that was like a DS game or something weird? Zero Escape. That
Maybe.
is a weird thing to see ported.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. But yeah, those feel like ports are like DLC things, right? Like Back for Blood's created Children of the Worm is like a DLC, isn't it, for that?
Say
Or a
again?
pack or something for Back for
It
Blood?
sounds like DLC, yeah. That would
Yeah, so
way
that's
too
probably
early
all
for a
included
new
with
game
that.
there.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking too. All right.
I like seeing Inscription move over to PS5 because that game was really cool.
Yeah, if you're into like any kind of like card style games, like Inscription, or even like something that's a little bit more narrative driven, definitely get Inscription. It is definitely really cool. Check it out. Spooky ass game. I'll say that much.
Right.
All right. So what do we have coming up this week in gaming history? Well, I guess it's not coming up; it already happened.
Yeah, I tried to grab everything that happened in the past week in history, and then just slot it up by year, like we usually do.
Yeah, I had to, for some reason, the chart that you were using, it was like duplicating itself, and I couldn't fix it. So I rewrote the list. Yeah, it was just I couldn't get it to. I had to take it out, unfortunately.
That's fine.
I'll have to figure out what it was doing. But it was like those first 7 bars were what you wanted, and then you skipped the page, and it was like those 7 bars again, and any change I made was reflected, and then it was like the rest of the list, and I'm like, I don't understand what's going on here, and I couldn't get rid of it. As a matter of,
I'll do it better next time because that thing I made in an Excel sheet and I pasted in.
Okay.
But the upcoming games releases one was I natively made a table inside the doc.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
I'll probably just have to make another native table in the doc instead of doing a Sheets. It's probably because it was imported from Sheets and being something, I don't know.
Just kind of having some weird effect there.
Right.
All right, let's take a look at our gaming history then. We had Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle. That came out on the Switch 5 years ago. Azure Striker Gunvolt came out on the 3DS 8 years ago. Diablo 3 came out on the PS3 and Xbox 360 9 years ago. Metroid Other M came out on the Wii 12 years ago. Pikmin 2 came out on the GameCube 18 years ago. And Dino Crisis came to the PS1 23 years ago. Tenchu Stealth Assassins that came out on the PS1 24 years ago. And Tekken 2 came to the PS1 26 years ago. We go further back. Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse came out on the NES 32 years ago. What a great fucking game. And then Who Framed Roger Rabbit, that came out on the NES 33 years ago, and the TurboGrafx 16 console launch was 33 years ago, all the way back in 1989. So that is what we have going on in gaming history this week. If we missed anything important, let us know in the comments. But there you have it. And then once again, our social media contact info here, Game Dude Retro on Twitter, and then you can find me, of course, on Twitch and TikTok at Retro Game Dude. Like I said, we won't be doing any streams this week because new work schedule. So I want to get acclimated for there first. But we will be back, of course, for Jackbox, and we'll be playing some games offline. So if you're out there, a part of the community, hit us up. You know, we'll always be playing games. Just because we're not streaming doesn't mean we're not playing anything.
Oh yeah, we're in the game lounge most nights, I feel like.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude. And then, so we have Jackbox this Saturday, and of course, we'll be back next Sunday with another SuperScope podcast to do this all over again. But everyone listening, I appreciate you for tuning in. If you aren't catching us live, make sure that you subscribe to me on Twitch so you don't miss a notification. And if you're seeing this on YouTube, get us a like, hit us with a subscribe, comment below, anything you want. Just let us know how we're doing. Feedback is always great, so let us know how we're doing, and we can course correct if there's something that you'd like us to change. All right, but yeah, thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care.